morning, Denver. It's 6 a.m. in the Mile High City, and you've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show on 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe. Good morning, Bill.
Hey, morning. How are you?
Brother.
Yeah.
It was, Friday was wild. We had Brandon Tatum. And
that was crazy.
Full packed restaurant and people having good times, and then a good restful weekend. And
that was so neat.
You never stopped working, though.
No,
so you just went right into the next program.
Yeah, I just went right in. Yeah. It did a lot of radio over the weekend. It was good and helped mom move.
It was how'd that go?
Crazy on so the 24 hours that we're doing the Brandon Tatum thing is also the 24 hours where mom is moving. So life was so chaotic. Literally packing her up Thursday after getting done with Brandon, going to her house and unloading things. And I love my mom, but she packed too much. Like way too much. Again, going from a large house down to, two bedroom, basically apartment in a retirement community. It's a lot of, she brought a lot of extra stuff. And she way overestimated the size of her kitchen. So there were a lot of extra kitchen things that are going to go back. We're going to have an estate sale. There are lots of things with going through the garage over the weekend. They were like, no, we're just going to have to sell these. There's nothing we can do with these. There's nothing. And some of them I'm looking at this going, I kind of would like to try to keep some of it, but I just don't have the room. Yeah. He's got a really nice air compressor. I'm like, oh, but I don't have the room in the garage. I've got a smaller one.
What do you use that for? Car stuff?
I'd use it, car stuff, but also different things. You use it for car things, use it for home construction, stuff like that. And just and also, you'll get into this. Somehow, I don't know what it is, but teenage drivers seem to believe that the tires magically inflate themselves and they run into things quite often. They just think it's like Mario Kart and a new tire just magically appears. It doesn't.
Do you ever see that prank where the girl, she pranks her father and she goes, I just got back from the mechanic and I paid $100 for the high quality air.
Oh, jeez. I know.
And the dad's like, wait, what? He's like, oh yeah, they told me this is high quality air. She knows she didn't really do this, but she's pranking. And he gets so mad. He's like, I'm going to call them. Oh, they ripped you off. Oh, all that. Yeah. High quality air.
Oh, that's fantastic. That is fantastic. Oh, my favorite story came from a mechanic friend of mine. He talked about, wasn't him. It was a buddy at the shop where the girlfriend comes in and says that she needs to drop off her boyfriend's Ford. And it's a FISO. And they're like, but no, Fiesta and this. No. I need to drop off he asked me to bring it in today, the Ford FISO. He's like, no, I don't understand. There's a Nissan thing that's similar to that years ago and not too sure what she was doing. Okay, fine. We can bring it in today, whatever. She shows up. It's a Ford F-150. Yeah, it's an F-150. Yeah. And she was reading it as FISO. Yeah, the entire time. So,
well, we were without my wife all weekend. She was helping her mother, who's getting older, get all of her affairs in order and all that stuff. And her mother lives in California. So
wow. So
it was Dad Fest. We survived, but mom was back, and the kids are very happy to have mom back.
They all the kids were clean and everything, and
that's
washed.
Right.
And, that's always the question. It's this. Okay, I got to tell a story. Professional wrestling story, but it's about family. Cody Rhodes, professional wrestler, headed into WrestleMania a couple of years ago, tears his pectoral muscle. It's a really big injury. He's in a lot of pain. Looks awful. Going to take him some time to recover. His wife is traveling at the time, his wife, Brandy, and they have a new baby. And so he calls. He goes, hey, babe, got to tell you something. Something happened in the ring and something. And my tore my pectoral muscle, everything else. She goes, is the baby okay? He goes, yeah, baby's just fine. She's okay. Well, I want to know the pectoral. And he goes, but you called me. Is the baby fine? Yeah, baby's just fine. He goes, okay, good. So, this muscle I'm dealing with. And she goes, okay. She just didn't care. He's like, I'm trying to tell her I'm in this pain. It's going to be recovery and there's going to be some things. And the only thing was that she's like, as soon as the baby was fine, she was like, yeah, I don't care what happened to you.
Because she's traveling, the phone rings. It's exactly where her mind goes the first
it's immediately
thing.
The baby. And he was like, she didn't care. She, I'm telling her the injury. And she's like, okay. Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah, I know.
Well, it sounds like we survived. We're gearing up for a whole incredible show. I mean, really, this is one of the most on-fire shows we've ever had. 7 o'clock hour, we're going to dive into why the Ride the Rockies was canceled. And is this indicative of a bigger problem for the state? I mean, this thing was huge. I remember the lottery and the waiting list and all that stuff. They canceled it this year because the because the registrations were so low.
Yeah.
Going to talk to Scott Olmstead of the Ride Collective. We're going to get Trump trial updates. Barb Kirkmeyer is going to join us because I saw this headline that Pula signs $24 million funding for illegal immigrant students. And I read it and I saw it was bipartisan. So I texted my friend Barb Kirkmeyer, who's on the bill. Hopefully she can shed some light on this one.
This will be fun.
So she'll join us 7 o'clock hour as well. 8 o'clock hour, Lauren Boebert. She was one of only a handful of Republicans that voted against everything on Saturday in funding for Ukraine, funding for Israel, funding for Indochina, TikTok bans, all that stuff. So I texted our friend and Lauren Boebert, say, can you come on and share your reasoning behind voting against all of that stuff? So she'll join us in the 8 o'clock hour. And then good friend of the show, Rich Sokol, pro-Israeli activist on what is going on in Colombia. Rich Sokol heads up or sits on the board of the organization that the student organization at DU, the Jewish student organization at DU. So
those videos were shocking.
They're blocking the Jews from getting where they need to go.
That to me gets into, when you talk about the idea of the violence and intimidation, when you're preventing them from going somewhere, you've gotten into intimidation. And you can, in my opinion, as offensive as it is, stand there and chant your offensive slogans and things, because I will defend your right to do that under the First Amendment. But when you come up to someone and start screaming it at them and talking about certain things that should happen to them, now you're into intimidation. Now you've crossed the line. That's not, in my opinion, exercising your free speech. That's something totally different.
So he'll join us in the 9 o'clock hour, Rich Sokol. So covering everything from the Trump trials to the Ride the Rockies cancellation to $24 million of your tax dollars going to illegal immigrant students in the state of Colorado, to the foreign aid package vote, to anti-Semitism on college campuses. My goodness, that's a lot to cover today. But look, guys, this is where the most engaging discussions, critical analysis, and most importantly, your calls and texts come in, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So get that coffee brewing, Denver, and let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. So what's ahead on the Trump trials today? This from the Washington Post. On Monday in Manhattan criminal court, a prosecutor and a defense attorney are set to offer their opening statements in Trump's trial for allegedly falsifying business records to hide a hush money payment. And then the district attorney's office will begin presenting witnesses and evidence to make its case for convicting the 45th president of the United States. Here's something that's really interesting. On Tuesday, they're going to break from all this and go into whether or not the presumptive Republican nominee for President Donald Trump should be found in contempt of court for allegedly violating his gag order. In a different New York courtroom, another court will weigh the state attorney general's challenge to Trump's $175 million bond on Monday. That's important because the bond in question allows him to pursue an appeal and delay paying nearly $500 million civil judgment for misstating Trump's company assets. Then Thursday, the U.S. Supreme Court will hear arguments about Trump's claim that he cannot be prosecuted for allegedly trying to block the results of the 2020 presidential election. Whatever the outcome for Trump personally, the case may force the highest court in the land to draw new clear lines about the limits of presidential power. So you have a lot of court cases taking place today, which will be
and
be interesting.
Did you see over the weekend, Trump truthed out, I guess that's what he does, about that immunity case, and saying that he has to be granted immunity. Otherwise, Obama and Bush, and especially Biden, is going to be charged after he leaves office for all the crimes that he's doing. And he was saying that as a justification. I'm like, sorry, if Biden is doing a lot of crimes in the office, then why don't we charge him for those? Well,
it seems they're legit.
Yeah.
Prosecutions, I'll grant you that, but they could also be used for just political interference, which is what I think a lot is happening here.
It's weird with the political interference one, because if it was, then why did Trump delay the cases so much? If he was so worried about it interfering with his ability to campaign, Why do you work on delaying it so much? That's the issue, is a lot of these things had trial dates that wouldn't have interfered with campaigning, but he delayed everything. So he's partially responsible for where the cases sit in the calendar. It's not Joe Biden didn't come in and pick these dates. He's partially responsible for them based on the fact that he kept asking for delays and other filings and everything else. He just last week in the Manhattan case was trying to go through and make all sorts of specious arguments with lawyers that were going to delay things even further.
I
so
see that's
he's got
standard operating procedure in most cases.
I know, but if he was super concerned about it, he's responsible too. It's not as if the Biden Department of Justice came in and set all these court cases. It's they don't have that purview. They don't have that ability to do that. That was set by the courts, and then Trump delayed them. If he was worried about it and he was so certain of his innocence, get him to court. That's the part that I've got. He's partially responsible for all this mess. So, okay.
There you go. A lot of Trump trials to cover today. Let's check in on the news with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Hey, good morning, guys. Hope you had a good weekend, and it sounds like a great show this morning. It's 43 and mostly cloudy in Denver. We're going for a high of 76 today, a patriotic day. The 7-10 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story, a 6-year-old is safe and a suspect is in custody following a kidnapping in Aurora that triggered an Amber Alert Sunday night. A man stole a vehicle from a gas station while the child was inside. Authorities haven't said where or how they found the child. The suspect's identity hasn't been released, but thankfully they have found the child. Friday, 33-year-old registered sex offender Solomon Galligan was arrested on the count of attempted kidnapping after he walked onto the playground at Black Forest Hills Elementary School and tried to abduct a student during recess. Opening statements, as Jeff and Billy just mentioned, in the former President Trump campaign derailment trial getting underway in New York this morning. 7 men and 5 women make up the jury. Trump's attorney, Will Scharf, on Fox News Sunday.
We're focusing on the facts because the facts show that President Trump did absolutely nothing wrong. This is a business records case. Those business records accurately reflected payments to one of President Trump's lawyers as legal retainer fees. Additionally, those records weren't actually entered by President Trump. He was busy running the country from the White House while all this was happening in Trump Tower in New York.
This is the first time in American history prosecutors will present opening statements in a criminal case against a former president. Congratulations, Democrats. Nice job. Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg, who took millions from George Soros, will bring up Trump's other legal fights. Former U.S. Attorney for Utah, Brett Tolman, on with Mark Levin over the weekend.
But nothing like what we're seeing now. This is a concerted effort that is not based in the rule of law. It's based in politics, and it's using power that is unbridled with no transparency, using that power to actually target a person that they're more afraid of.
The $95 billion foreign aid bill goes to Senate Tuesday. Senator Ted Cruz says there's some good and a lot of really bad in the deal.
I think the most disappointing part of this bill is that it does not do anything meaningful to secure the border. This was an opportunity to take a serious step forward on the border. And unfortunately, the Democrat Party's position is they support open borders. They're unwilling to do anything on border security.
Lauren Boebert is coming up with Jeff and Bill in the 8 o'clock hour to discuss that. News brought to you by Lair Fireplace and Patio, Denver's premier source for everything fireplace, patio, and grills, locally owned and operated since 1954, online at lairfireplacepatio.com. 37 in Castle Rock, 38 in Boulder, 43 in Denver. Nuggets try to up their lead 2 games to none tonight in their opening round series with the Lakers. Nikola Jokic embracing the fact that he looks like Gru from the movie Despicable Me, shows up with the same outfit on as grew before game one, and they defeat the Lakers. Avalanche lose to Winnipeg 7-6 in the first game of their first round NHL series with the Jets. Game 2 tomorrow. Rockies split with the Mariners in a doubleheader. They open a 3-game series with the Padres tonight. The Broncos unveiling their new look this morning at about 9 o'clock. It's the first change since 1997. Official change to the uniform. The logo and the colors will stay the same, but evidently they look good on radio. Hey, it's Monday with Jeff and Bill, and they continue. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Now there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts, text message your favorite local hosts, call the show, get the latest headlines, and enter contests to win prizes. All in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
Did you get that Amber Alert at 10:45 last night or whatever it was?
I got it this morning. I was asleep.
Your phone? How did you get your phone not to go crazy?
I don't put my phone in the bedroom. I've learned that lesson.
Oh, do you?
No, yeah, the phone is downstairs in the kitchen. I've learned this lesson. No. There are very few things in which I need to be woken up in the middle of the night for. So no, if people need to get a hold of us, they can.
Rookie radio host mistake.
Yeah, no. There are times in which you have to have the phone next to you. Yeah, this is not one of them. So I saw that this morning. That was unfortunate. That's crazy. Yeah.
What was the update? Did Blake give an update on that?
Don't remember.
I wasn't
either. I was doing something. I'm trying to cut the audio from last Friday. That still has to be done. So I'm trying to get Friday's broadcast up and ready to go. So because someone said let's get ready to something or another, and I got to cut the notes.
Car stolen with 6-year-old girl inside.
Yeah.
Yikes.
That is just spooky. That is. And then
okay, they found her safe. They found her safe.
And then you hear the one of the dude walks onto the playground, tries to grab the kid. That's just spooky. That's really spooky.
So we were in Hawaii when that missile alert went off.
Mm.
My wife and I were.
Oh, wow.
And we were driving to a goat farm.
Oh, wow.
We were going to Surfing Goat Dairy.
Yeah.
And we are going to try goat cheese and have a nice day. And so it was about 8:30 in the morning and our phones blow up. And it's like, and the text said, this is not a drill. So it specifically said, this is not a drill. Yeah. Incoming ballistic missiles, seek shelter immediately. Yeah. And then we, you're like, what? And so we turn on the radio and the radio's doing that and type of thing. And so it plays the recording. Yeah. And we pulled off into the Maui Aquarium, and there's a whole bunch of people in the gift shop. And for about 30 minutes, everyone's calling their loved ones to say goodbye.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah.
Right. And you're trying not to, my wife was doing the same thing. She's trying not to scare the kids.
Yeah.
Like, she's like, I want you to know we really love you. And our kids are like 8, 10 years old. They're staying with friends and family at that point because we were on our anniversary trip. And so she was calling all of them. And I call my pops and I'm like, hey, can you turn on CNN right now and let me know where the missile is going to hit?
Yeah.
He's like, what? I'm like, we just got this alert. And I explained it all to him. And I'm like, once it shoots off, they can figure out where it's going to land. And traditionally, you can't take out an entire state. Maybe Hawaii, but you're probably just going to take out an island.
Oh, yeah.
And is it Maui or is it Pearl Harbor? Or where's it going to hit? And he's like, they're at a MyPillow commercial. That's when it struck me that like maybe this isn't right. So
I'll tell you now, once you get doing this show for a little bit longer, you will develop what's called the radio calluses, and that is the remarkable ability to ignore absolutely every emergency announcement out there. All of them don't mean a thing because you got to keep working. And so my ability to ignore lights, sirens, danger, it's not a good thing, but you get it. Yes, you do. And it's ridiculous. I working with Peter Boyles, there was a time where the fire alarm is going off in the building that we are working. And we're like, this isn't real. This isn't real. And then the dude walks by with the respirator and the mask on and the axe. We're like, maybe we shouldn't still be in the studio.
We've got to remain on air.
Yes. But,
So what do you think, Bill, of the Democrats dismissing the trial in the Senate against Mayorkas, while at the same time bringing 90 plus charges against Donald Trump?
Well, here's the thing is I think your question assumes a conclusion that is not in evidence.
Okay.
Because you're saying while the Democrats are bringing 91 charges against Trump, I still disagree that this is a large concerted effort to coordinated. That's the issue. Is there's this assumption on the Republican side of the aisle that this is a large coordinated effort. Are you familiar with the Democrats? Large coordinated efforts, not really their strong point, not really what they're good at. They are fairly chaotic and trying to get things that they need done across the line, not their strong suit. So the idea that they, again, look at the messes and things they do inside of government. The idea that then they are so buttoned up to create this massive set of cases against Trump, I just don't see it. And the other part is that some of the stuff with Trump, allegedly, but it sure seems like he did some of it. He said he did some of it. So I'm not at that point. I think the Mayorkas thing was childish and silly on both sides. I think it was childish and silly for the Democrats to just dismiss it because it is going to set a precedent for any future impeachments that go forward. But trying to impeach Mayorkas, also, in my opinion, childish and silly. He's bad at his job. That's not a high crime or misdemeanor. That's not the ability. That's not the reason to impeach. And the idea being, let's say that there's a President Trump that gets in and the Democrats have control of the House and they feel one of his cabinet members is doing a bad job. Now they can just impeach him. Impeach him for a bad job because we don't agree with you. This is just silly.
You don't think he facilitated an invasion?
No, I don't. No, I don't.
Millions of illegal immigrants coming across. He knew about that.
But the issue, again, it's always the idea of millions of illegal immigrants. As soon as they claim asylum, they're technically legal. We're not looking at fixing the problem. It's always this assumption of all the people that are coming through and all the people that are here are all illegal, and they're not. And that's part of the problem. And we go back to this. It's going to be a problem with the Hispanic vote and other things based on how they're castigated. So no, I think that it was a BS to bring up Mayorkas on impeachment charges. He's bad at his job, but it's not a high crime or misdemeanor. He's bad. That's it. And so he's allowed to be bad at his job. We have a lot of people in the government that are really, really bad at their job.
Yeah, I could name several
dozen in Congress right now.
I disagree. I think that it is rooted in a concerted effort to change this country.
Help me understand that.
In doing so, they see it as an opportunity. I think Democrats see this as an opportunity to affect the census in order to get more power. And if
walk me through that.
So,
because I hear this a lot.
The census does not just count citizens, right?
Yeah.
It counts all the people that live in that area, and then you
should.
base your congressional proportions on the census recording.
Yeah.
Right. So look, illegal immigrants aren't going to traditionally Republican conservative counties. They're going to more liberal areas.
Why not?
Because of some of the services that are provided to them. And like with El Paso County, they want their law enforcement to work with ICE. So if you're getting busted, they're going to coordinate with ICE on that. So I think they're going to go to more liberal areas, which are going to bolster the census counts in those liberal areas and give Democrats more power. So I think
the Republican areas also offer services. I mean, that's it, if it's
but
the attraction,
they don't believe in illegal immigration to begin with. So I think Democrats see this as an opportunity to benefit them. They're allowing it to happen. And I think that's why, they're willing to allow this to happen. So I know we're off on a little bit of a tangent here, but it I disagree with Bill too in the notion that somehow all these 91 indictments and all these cases against Donald Trump aren't coordinated. Yeah, you may not have a memo from Joe Biden telling Democrats when and where to do all this stuff, but I think all of these cases are brought by Democrats motivated to go after the Republican nominee for president in an effort to keep him from winning the case. So we're getting some calls here. Let's go to Melissa in Lakewood. Melissa, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Melissa.
Morning.
Good morning. I was just going to add a little bit to what you were saying, was that I'm seeing people for sure and possibly being gentrified out of having certain jobs because that are being new because they're not bilingual. There are a lot of jobs that are coming up now with WIC and you know, things that are going to be needed to take care of the people that are coming over. And if you're not bilingual, you can't have that job.
Yeah. I mean, to me, job market's changing, and job markets have changed a number of times, since I've been in the job market. We used to have to be really good with grease pencils and razor blades and edit tape in radio, and now it's all digital.
Bill, do you believe that Democrats believe in borders?
Yeah.
You don't think they're just totally open borders?
No.
I've run into leftists that totally believe in open
leftists,
borders.
But that's different than Democrats. Way left, absolutely open borders. Absolutely. Way left, no borders at all. Absolutely. Yeah. But that's way left. That's not Democrat Party.
And one more thing is these people, and I don't mean to sound a certain way, but if they commit a crime, they have somewhere to flee to. We don't, we're stuck here.
Well, I mean, technically, there are enough Americans that do flee to Canada, Mexico, other places as well. So I somewhat disagree with that notion. But I think Jeff is right about the idea of when police don't necessarily work with ICE. I think that's absolutely a problem. Yes, that we want to know the people, immigrants, legal, illegal, asylum seekers, even American citizens doing the crime.
I'm hearing that they can't do anything about the guys cleaning your windshield because they don't have IDs. I'm hearing that their cops are not giving out tickets sometimes just because there's no point.
Well,
is there a ticket you can give out for that?
I imagine getting into the median. Getting into the street while traffic is when it's not moving. I'm not sure what the issue is. What the issues are there. The other part is, I understand not liking the squeegee guys there, but if we are to believe that this is such a crime-infested America right now, and that the crime is so bad in Denver, is that where I want my officer standing there giving the guy a ticket who's got a squeegee? If we really believe crime's an issue, I don't want him ticketing the squeegee guy because it's taking away from doing something else that is going to go after a criminal. It's probably going to harm a citizen. That's just me.
I wish I thought that they were learning what they're supposed to do, because I did have to call the police yesterday because I saw an Asian woman pushing a stroller with a toddler in it in Evans.
Yeah.
Like in
the middle of the road.
Yeah, if you're in the road, then then you got some issues there. Yeah. Absolutely.
Better.
Oh, absolutely.
Did you guys see the video of that of the baby crawling with the mom using drugs?
No,
that was wild. So Do Better Denver has a video. And I really appreciate Do Better Denver, because I think they're actually doing what the media should be doing, which is capturing, what's really happening on the streets in downtown Denver. But here you have a baby that's got to be 9 months old, crawling around while it looks like her mom and other women are getting high, shooting up.
Oh, geez.
It's just heartbreaking. But Melissa, awful. I appreciate the call. Melissa from Lakewood. Her line will be open 303-696-1971.
She
did. That was fun.
She had this really cool, red, white, and blue America
scarf and stuff.
Sweater. So awesome. It looked great.
Give us a call, 303-696-1971, or text us on the 710 KNUS app. Look, we are going into opening statements for the Trump trial today. Democrats very serious that they are going to prosecute Donald Trump for the crimes he committed. Meanwhile, dismissing the Senate trial on Mayorkas. That was duly brought up, constitutionally brought up by House Republicans. we're not going to prosecute this as much. We're not going to do the trial. Do you think that's fair? Give us a call, 303-696-1971. What do you expect out of the opening statements for today's trial in Manhattan? Love to hear from you. Text us on the 710 KNUS app. Folks, it's Jeff Hunt on behalf of the Colorado Farm Bureau. Whether you pulled out your skis or snowmobiles this last winter, it was a great year for winter fun. But the snow means even more to Colorado agriculture, and I want you to know that our state's farmers and ranchers are doing their part to protect our future water resources. The people of Colorado agriculture continue improving the efficiency of their irrigation systems and adopting farming practices that help crops use less water to grow. They're planting drought-resistant varieties, and they're leading talks with state policymakers about how to preserve water supplies when we have good years like this last one. My friends at the Colorado Farm Bureau are leaders in water conservation and water policy. They understand how to balance water for crops and water for families, and they're doing more with less. You can do your part. I recommend you join and become a member today. Go to the Colorado Farm Bureau by visiting coloradofarmbureau.com. That's coloradofarmbureau.com to join them today. We'll continue with your calls and texts. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. We're talking the Trump trials. Opening arguments begin today in the Manhattan criminal court case alleging that Donald Trump falsified business records to hide hush money payments. Then they'll begin offering witnesses tomorrow. They're going to take a break on this to argue whether or not Donald Trump should be found in contempt of court. He could be in jail by the end of the week if he was found in contempt of court, which he has said he doesn't mind. He's willing to take the role of Nelson Mandela for the United States. Bill's laughing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's always great. I want to go to jail. Okay, sure. Yeah, right. Yeah, Mandela. I love the
connection.
The illusions. Yeah, sure. As if he's a political prisoner fighting for apartheid.
He might be a political prisoner.
Is he? Did he do the stuff?
No.
No, he didn't. He didn't do the hush money thing?
No, I don't think so.
No, he didn't. Then who did?
I don't think it was illegal what he did. I don't think that it was a hush money payment that was illegal and illegal, violated business and FEC, because FEC didn't go after him. He was the president of the United States apparently when this happened.
Yeah.
He didn't record this. His business recorded it as a management of personal to an attorney that wasn't even working for the business at the time. So
yeah, which is weird, but he claimed it as if it was the attorney that was working for him. That's how he claimed it in the business records. He said it was for legal work that was being done.
Not on behalf of the Trump company.
No, but that's how it's recorded in his business
That's
records.
because his business manages his personal as well.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see all that.
Yeah, but it's a business account.
But I do think he's a political prisoner.
But it didn't come from Trump's private monies. It came from the business monies, and he claimed it as a business expense, and that he was paying a lawyer that was working for him, and he wasn't. It wasn't. That's the issue. And again, I think it is small potatoes. I necessarily wouldn't bring him on this one. I think the other ones are much, much, much more severe. The documents case, the Georgia case, the DC case. This one to me is a popcorn fart. Stupid. And I wouldn't charge him on this one. But did he do it? Yeah, absolutely did. Yes, the business records show that he did. But I wouldn't charge him on this one. I think it's a silly case, but that's okay.
Let's check in on the news with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake. What are you working on?
Here's what we're going to hear more from former President Trump's attorney as they get ready for those opening arguments in that circus that's going on in the Big Apple. And then another pedestrian is dead following another train accident in Denver. We got to look at the crossing signals before you cross. Unfortunately, someone died over the weekend in Denver. So working on that and much more coming up at the top of the hour.
Great. Thanks, Blake. Let's do You Choose the News with Bill Thorpe.
All right. Yes, it is that time for everybody's favorite fake radio news game show. You Choose the News. We have scoured the interwebs for mere moments this weekend to find these really stupid stories. One of them is a landmine, gentlemen. One of these is a difficult story. Warnings ahead of time. Now, we do it this time of the morning because nobody in charge actually knows what we're doing, nor do they care at this point. I did have some questions after Black Eyed Pea on Friday because some of them heard what we were doing, and they said that was just for the show, right, on Friday? Yes, absolutely. I'd never do this again, ever. No. And I assured them. But they don't get up late. They get up late, so we're okay here. All righty. Here are our headlines this morning, gentlemen. Headline number 1, really unexpected twist. Headline number 2, lottery winners arrested. Headline number 3, national park multiplies. And headline number 4, modern day time travel. All right, Mr. Hunt, choose carefully.
Let's start with the lottery winners.
Lottery winners are arrested. Here we are traveling into a lovely Pensacola, Florida, where we are going to meet Kira Ender and her boyfriend, Dakota Jones. Recently, they walked into the lottery office in Pensacola claiming, look at this, we won $1 million. And it sounds fantastic until you actually examine the tickets. The tickets, it's, yes, not 1, but 2. They had crudely taken 2 scratch tickets and pushed them together. They created a fake ticket. And it was easy to figure out it was fake because, I don't know, the words didn't match up on the front and the back. Also, one side of the ticket had one serial number, other side of the ticket, totally different serial number. So a week later, when Ms. Ender and Mr. Jones arrived back at the Pensacola lottery office to claim their winnings, they won a free trip to jail.
The police were there to welcome.
Yes. Yeah. They were, hey,
I
look
love,
at this.
I love that they waited for them to
I know. To
return
go
back.
Yes.
And they're just walking in.
Yeah. Like
Very happy to get there.
$1 million.
Look what we scammed.
Yes. And
And
hi,
then the
guys.
Did you ever see that video of the Washington Redskins utilizing free
Yes.
season tickets
Yeah,
to
get
go
the
after
guys. Yes,
criminals?
exactly.
And they even had the cheerleaders there.
Yeah.
And they had the mascot there. And the mascot was actually an undercover police officer.
So smart.
So that what they did is they mailed, this is before email. They mailed everybody that was outstanding warrants with an invitation to get a free ticket to a Washington Redskins game. And they all
Such a good
showed up.
idea.
They're just walking in.
Such a good idea. I love that idea. We should do that more often. Okay, Mr. Hunt, your second choice this morning, a really unexpected twist, national park multiplies or modern day time travel.
I'm all about those national parks, brother.
Yeah, national park multiplies. Here we are traveling to Honeymoon Island State Park. If you've ever been there, it's east of Tampa, north of Clearwater. Gorgeous spot, getting away from the city. But now when you visit, you're not visiting Honeymoon Island State Park. You're visiting Honeymoon Island State Parks, as in plural. The island has been split in two. Due to recent storms, the one island is now two different islands, a little more challenging to get to some spots if you want to hike through some of the forest or explore what used to be 4 miles of beach. Now not so much. Much less miles of beach and a little more wet. They don't have any plans to rebuild the middle part of it that was washed away. So from now on, Honeymoon Island State Park is going to be two islands for the price of one.
Very cool.
I know, kind of neat. I like the fact that they're like, no, I'm not going to fix it. We're just going to let it be.
We're going to
as it
let
is."
nature do its thing.
Why not? Why not? And again, if you ever did visit Honeymoon Island State Park, you now visit it before it was split. So you've got a unique experience that nobody else does. So
Wow.
congratulations.
Where's
Yeah.
that again? Honeymoon
It
Island
is
State Park?
east of Tampa, north of Clearwater.
Okay.
Roughly. Yeah, that's basically where it is.
Very
So,
cool.
yeah, I had to research that because I had no idea.
I'd never heard of that
There's
either.
no
It's a
clue.
national park.
Yeah, I figured I should know if we're going to do the story. So I got the Google box to tell me this morning.
So, you know, Teddy Roosevelt National
Yeah.
Parks, loved
Heard
it.
of him,
Have
yeah.
you ever heard of the thing called point-to-point hiking? He used to do this.
Point to now. I think isn't that when you go outside and you're like, "Hey, look over there," and you point over there, and "Hey, look at that over there." You point. Is that
Sort
what it
of.
is?
It's
No?
like we're going to go that way
Yeah.
for 20 miles, and whatever we run into, we deal with.
Oh,
You come into a lake.
we eat it.
Well, you come into a lake, you swim across the lake. You come into a cliff,
That's-
you climb over the cliff.
So-
You don't go around things.
So basically, this is like the 3D version of going on a bear hunt.
A bear
Don't you,
hunt?
don't you know that book?
No.
Oh, you are a horrible parent. You are an awful parent. You've never read Going on a Bear Hunt to your kids?
I've never even heard of it.
What?
Going
Oh.
on a bear hunt?
Yeah, going on a bear hunt. Gonna catch a big one. I can't go this way. Gotta go under it. Gotta go over it. Can't go over it. Can't go under it. Gotta go through it. That's the whole thing.
No,
they run
I've
into like it's a
never
big
heard of that.
thing in the grass, and there's a big field of grass. Can't go over it. Can't go under it. Gotta go
Gotta
through
go
it.
through
Swishy, 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 swishy through the grass. We're going on a bear hunt. Gotta catch a big one. Yes, and there's all these noises through it. I'm
Dude,
disappointed
I've
in you as a
never
parent.
even heard of that.
I bet you haven't even read the Sesame Street classic, The Monster at the End of this book.
No. Going on
bear
a
hunt.
bear hunt.
Yes, it is a
book.
classic book. It is a wonderful little book.
Wow.
Kids
Michael
love it.
Rosen.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It is a really good book.
Huh.
And yeah, and you don't know
It was
Monster.
published in 89.
I know.
That split
You were
me
alive
because
last
I
time I
was like
checked.
9 or 10 at that
I
point.
know, but
so-
your kids could have gotten it for the kids.
Yeah, it's
It could
true.
have been you missed out, and I'm a little disappointed. Especially
we
and
got some work
Monster-
to do.
Monster at the
Catch
end
up,
of, yeah,
apparently.
and Monster at the end of this book. That is a fantastic 1970s book.
Hmm.
Sesame Street. Wonderful and so much fun with the kids. That is for new parents. That's one of my go-to purchases if I can, because normally you can get it fairly inexpensive, and it is a wonderful story to
There you
read to the
go.
kids. The idea is Grover has been told that there's a monster at the end of the book. And so you're going through the pages, and Grover's trying to prevent you from turning the pages. So he puts, he like boards them together. He puts a wall up.
That sounds fun.
Again, so you pretend to pull the pages like, oh my gosh. And then it turns, and there's a big mess on the next page. And he's like, look what you've done. You've made a giant mess out of my wall. Seriously, this is what we're doing. And it keeps, and you get closer and closer. And of course, the end of the book, Grover's the monster. So it's this great little twist. It is so much fun. Kids love it. Monster at the end of this book came out in the 70s.
Cool.
It is a classic. It's fantastic. All right. Blake Olson has got to bring us back to the silliness. All righty, sir. Blake, you have a choice here. Really unexpected twist or modern day time travel?
Ooh, let's go with modern day time travel.
Modern day time travel. Yes. Blackouts can be a bane of college existence and sometimes later on our early 20s. But some of the science hippies have figured out exactly why we black out. The authors studied a grand total of, 79 college sophomores and juniors during a semester at school. In total, the students suffered 147 blackouts over 486 days of drinking. About 70% of the students in the studies had blackouts. What caused it? They found the blackouts occur on days when all three things occur. 1, alcohol consumption is faster than normal. 2, you consume a higher amount of alcohol than normal. 3, you consume alcohol for a more prolonged period of time. So more drinking, drinking faster, drinking longer. Those three things together end up with modern day time travel, which all of us that have been in college have that, where you're drinking in a bar and you black out and then, whoa, hey, wait, now I'm in another bar. Now I'm drinking, boom. Oh, wait, now I'm drinking on the street. And wow, now I'm drinking in the park. It's just time travel. And then like, wow, now I'm drinking in someone's house and what happened to my pants? It's kind of what happens. At least that was my college experience.
That's right.
I'm not
That
saying
was
it's everybody's.
yours.
Yeah, not
At
everybody's. I'm just saying. Yeah.
Right off of Harmony, I remember you.
Exactly.
I remember you.
Yeah. So that's what they're saying is that's how they did. But again, I love the fact that some bunch of scientists got paid to go,
right?
Let's look at drinking.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I'm sure their
This is
parents are
gonna
very
be
proud.
earth-shattering.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, your son's a scientist. Yes, he's studying blackout drinking. That sounds more like he's an
Right.
alcoholic. That's not good.
No way. In college?
I must.
Yeah,
I-
exactly.
I saw this the other day on Tucker Carlson was talking
Yeah.
about how sometimes when he flies, he'll drink 24 beers.
Somebody's
I
trying
was
to
like,
break under the
maybe I
Giants
must
record.
just live in a totally different world. I'm like, maybe
Same
one or
here.
two.
That's-
And then I'm like,
wow.
oh, that's enough for me tonight.
It's a tour.
24.
Wow,
Good
that's
Lord.
wild.
His carry-ons
Flying
are those
around
like
the
those
world.
suitcases full of Coors Light. It's ridiculous. Well, that's the end of You Choose the News. As always, Jeff and Blake are our winners. I'm a giant loser, and we are proudly not sponsored by Roll 'em Out Shelves. They don't want to have anything to do with this silliness, but they will come to your home for a free home estimate today. Wonderful mother-son team to organize the clutter in your garage, kitchen, bathroom. They are going to make your life easier. Those little things that you get mad at about your storage problems in your house, they're going to fix it. RollEmOutShelves.com. Mention 710K in US. Don't tell them about this. They're going to charge you more, I promise. All right, back to you, sir.
All right. Coming up in the 7 o'clock hour, we're going to hear about this Ride the Rockies bike event canceled
This is
due to
crazy.
low registration. And I was interested in this because I do a bunch of the mountain trail running and long distance runnings and things like that, Leadville 50 and Leadville 100 and all that stuff. So I know the summer fun you have out, but
I know people have been doing this for years.
this one was amazing because I remember how popular this was.
Oh, yeah.
So we're going to talk to an expert in the kind of bike racing world here in Colorado, Scott Olmstead. So we'll get to that and a whole lot more. Barb Kirkmeyer, Lauren Boebert, Rich Sokol, all coming up on the Jeff and Bill Show. So stick around. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, KNUS.
At this hour in London, I'm Julia Chapman, and here are the top stories we're following. The US and the Philippines have begun a joint annual drill that will see more than 16,000 troops sail beyond Manila's territorial waters for the first time. They're the second largest drills of their kind and will simulate an attempt to retake islands near Tiawan by an unnamed country. A Chinese military official says the sea shouldn't be an arena for flexing gunboat muscles and that anyone stoking tensions will only hurt themselves. The drills continue until May 10th. Netflix gained another 9.3 million subscribers to start the year, while its profit soared with the help of a still emerging expansion into advertising. Haley Bianco has more.
The performance demonstrates that Netflix is still building on its momentum from last year, when a crackdown on freeloading viewers relying on shared passwords made many pay for their own accounts. And the rollout of a low-priced option with commercials revived the streaming service's growth following a post-pandemic lull. Investors increasingly are viewing Netflix as the clear-cut winner in a fierce streaming battle that includes Apple, Amazon, Disney, and Warner Brothers and Discovery. As a result, Netflix's stock price has more than doubled since the end of 2022.
And that's what you need to know at this hour. I'm Julia Chapman in London on Salem News Channel.
Opening statements for the Donald Trump trial begin today. Politico reporting that the prosecutors for Trump are going to go this way. That the hush money payment was, quote, election interference. Will jurors and voters believe it? I think the Trump people just respond and go, the FEC looked at this and did not agree. So, you know.
Yeah, this is, again, for me, it's a minor thing, but he claimed it on the business as an expense that wasn't. It was a personal expense, and then it was just misclassified so that he could deduct it. That's all it was. He was playing accounting games, and if he gets pinched for small accounting games, he gets pinched. That's what happens. Is this something I would have, gone out there and tried to get elected on and made it a senator? No. Would I try to stretch some of these rules as far as statute of limitations things to get him and try to make it from misdemeanor to a felony?
Yep.
No, I wouldn't. But did he do it? Yeah, sure. Yeah. But do I think he needs to necessarily be criminally punished for it? No. Does he need to be a felon for this?
And I think the greatest look, my opinion on all of this is that this thing is coordinated because they're all Democrats and they want to bring down the Republican nominee for president. But the argument that you make where you go, this isn't coordinated, I think is strengthened because they're leading on this case. Because
what do you mean?
I think this is going to taint all the other cases. I think he's going to walk on this one, and everyone's going to go, look, it's all political prosecution. It's all trumped up charges. It doesn't work.
And
so when you make the argument that this isn't coordinated because this is the weakest case and they're leading with it, I go, man, there might be something there to that.
Yeah. See, that's the thing is, you wouldn't lead with this one. This would be the throw in at the end to tack on the extra felonies. This is like for me, this case would be the second impeachment for Donald Trump.
Right.
He was already leaving office. He shouldn't have been impeached. The only reason the Democrats did that is so that he is the extra credit question in every middle school government class for the next 20 years. Who's the twice impeached president? That's all it is. It's silly. That's why they can't lead with this one. If it was really coordinated, they wouldn't lead with this one.
Some agreement coming between Jeff and Bill on this. All right, coming up in the 7 o'clock hour, why is Ride the Rockies canceled? What's going on here? You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Good morning, Denver. It's 7 a.m. in the Mile High City, and you have tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show on 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt. I'm full of coffee, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights, hottest takes from the right, left, center, and crazy. It's a great day in the Mile High City, and we're gearing up for a whole nother hour of engaging discussions, critical analysis, and most importantly, your calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So Denver, let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. We have an absolutely jam-packed 7 o'clock hour. We're going to hear from Scott Olmstead, co-founder and owner of the Ride Collective, as to what happened with the Ride the Rockies. Is this indicative of a larger trend here in Colorado of people maybe not coming to the state for the events that they used to, or was it kind of management, or what's going on here? So he's going to give us some insight in the 7 o'clock hour, as well as Barb Kirkmeyer, state senator. I saw this headline from Colorado Public Radio that Governor Polis signs $24 million funding bill to help schools with new immigrant students. $24 million. Then I saw that it was bipartisan. Well, what? So I texted my friend Barbara Kirkmeyer of Weld and Larimer counties and asked her to help me understand what we're doing here. So she's going to join us right after Scott Olmstead, 8 o'clock hour. Lauren Boebert on her vote against the foreign aid package that took place this weekend. What's her reasoning for that? We'll hear from her. And then 9 o'clock, good friend of the show, Rich Sokol, pro-Israeli activist, on what in the world is going on at Columbia and Yale, these schools. I mean, we thought that the kind of worst of this anti-Semitism college campus stuff took place in October, but man, and it's all fired back up.
Ivy League. The rich kids.
They're lunatics. I've known that for a while.
Rich kids, but aren't they the conservatives though? That's the thing.
Not at the Ivies. Not at all. They ran the conservatives out decades ago.
I don't know.
I think there's like donations to Democrats is like 90+% on these college campuses. So we'll learn
parents,
all about this.
That's the thing.
No, from the professors.
Okay, well, professors, yeah, but I'm talking parents. I mean, these come from conservative families mostly, is what I'm guessing. That's why I'm surprised.
No way.
With the
no
kids.
way.
That's
conservative families, they all send their kids to Liberty, man.
I don't know about that. I think if they had a choice of Liberty or Harvard or Yale, I think
Liberty, Hillsdale.
I think they're choosing Yale. If they had the choice.
I don't know.
Yeah, I think that might be.
We'll get into that with Rich Sokol in the 9 o'clock hour. So jam-packed show. Stick around. Man, they might as well just give us, syndicated television at this point. This show's so hot. All right, let's go to Blake Olson with the news. Good morning, Blake.
Good morning, Jeff. 45 and mostly cloudy in Denver. We're going for a high of 76 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story, a 6-year-old is safe and a suspect is in custody following that kidnapping in Aurora that triggered an Amber Alert Sunday night. A man stole a vehicle from a gas station while the child was inside. Authorities haven't said where or how they found the child. The suspect's identity hasn't been released. Friday, 33-year-old registered sex offender Solomon Galligan was arrested on one count of attempted kidnapping after he walked onto a playground at Black Forest Hills elementary school, that is, and tried to abduct a student during recess. A pedestrian is dead following a collision involving a train near Quebec and Smith Road on Friday. Investigators say the pedestrian crossed the tracks even though the crossing signal lights were flashing. Another shooting in Aurora on Saturday. It left a teenage girl with life-threatening injuries. She is recovering. No word on suspects at this time. Opening statements in the former President Trump campaign derailment trial underway in New York this morning. 7 men and 5 women make up the jury, and Trump's attorney Will Scharf on Fox News Sunday.
And as long as the jury focuses on the facts, as long as the jury can see through all the media coverage and all the sensationalism and focus on the actual facts at issue in this case, we believe we have a winning case.
Trump is accused of falsifying business records. This is the first time in American history prosecutors will present opening statements in a criminal case against a former president. Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg, who took $1 million from George Soros, will bring up Trump's other legal fights. The $95 billion foreign aid bill goes to Senate on Tuesday. Senator Ted Cruz says there's some good and some really bad in the deal. It does nothing for the border, and Cruz says Democrats and his upcoming opponent in Texas care about illegals, not citizens, on Fox News on Sunday.
If you gather just ordinary people together and asked in New York and California, anywhere, said, look, If an illegal alien assaults a cop, should you deport him? Normal people are going to say, of course you should.
Course.
But not elected Democrats. Elected Democrats, they side with the criminals and the illegal aliens against American citizens.
No doubt. At least 3 more people are under arrest after pro-Hamas demonstrations at Columbia University in Manhattan. Some students remain outside with their sleeping bags and books, probably numerous ones of the life of Karl Marx around those sleeping bags somewhere. Over 100 were arrested last week for clashing with police. 42 in Parker, 41 in Louisville, and 45 in Denver. Nuggets try to up their lead 2 games to none tonight in their opening round series against the Lakers. The Avalanche lose to Winnipeg 7-6 last night in the first game of their first round series in the NHL playoffs. Game 2 is tomorrow against the Jets. The Rockies split with the Mariners in a doubleheader on Sunday. They open a 3-game series with the Padres tonight, and the draft is coming up in the NFL on Thursday, but the Broncos unveiling their new look this morning. Don't worry, it's the same logo and same colors. God only knows what they're going to do to the uniforms. We'll find out after 9 o'clock. Hey, more news on Deion Sanders coming up later, maybe in the 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock hour. It is Monday with Jeff and Bill, and they continue. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Now there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts, text message your favorite local hosts, call the show, get the latest headlines, and enter contests to win prizes. All in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
Saw this headline over the weekend, kind of broke my heart a little bit. Famed Ride the Rockies bike event canceled due to low registration. This from CPR. One of Colorado's marquee cycling events has been canceled for 2024. Ride the Rockies was scheduled for June and hoped to take more than 2,000 riders on a route in northwestern Colorado, but the long-running tour failed to attract enough interest from participants, the organizers announced on Thursday. After much consideration and evaluation of the limited registration, we regret that Ride the Rockies 2024 is canceled. We extend our heartfelt gratitude to all the towns, participants, sponsors, crews, volunteers, and supporters who have made a role in making this ride so special for the past 37 years. A statement on the group's website read, the organization's post left it unclear if the event will return. We are assessing the best options for this beloved ride, the organizers wrote. Ride the Rockies is a tour, not a race. This year's installment was scheduled to run from June 9th to the 15th, covering 400 plus miles and more than 2,300 feet of vertical gain. Just days before the cancellation, Ride the Rockies was advertising this year's merch, camping locations, sponsors. A tour was to include stops in Steamboat Springs, Craig, Meeker, Rangeley, and Fruita, Colorado. The director of the tour also lost her job at the same time the cancellation was announced. She said she was devastated. One of my good friends that I grew up with, Scott Olmstead, he's the co-founder and owner of the Ride Collective. I mean, a big name on kind of ride events here in the state of Colorado. So I texted him, just said, hey, help me understand what's going on here. Is this part of a broader trend with cycling in the state, events in the state, those types of things? So he's happy to join us today on the Jeff and Bill Show. Good morning, Scott. Thanks for being on the program.
Good morning, Jeff and Bill. Thanks for having me on.
So give me a sense of what's happening with the cycling industry in Colorado. Is this a larger trend? I know there was peaks during the years with the Lance Armstrong. You organize a whole series of races in the state. Help me understand what's happening in Colorado.
Yeah, there's a lot going on, Jeff. I will agree with you guys. I mean, I think RTR is a fabulous event. It's been going on for so long. It was a shock last week I'll point out, I don't know how they operated it or how they came to the conclusion that they did. But I think there's a great opportunity for you and your listeners to know by no means cycling is dying. We do have challenges, but it's not going to go away, nor events. And, I've kind of thought about this over the weekend. There's kind of three areas that I could talk about, just in my own 20 years of experience. And really the big one right now is people are getting older. Like you said, 15 years ago, cycling was hot. We called those the Lance Armstrong years, where Lance was in the news every day. Cycling was relevant. People were motivated. They were inspired. And now they're in their 60s and they're, probably not riding as much. So, age has a factor right now for sure. I think also it's obviously, we all know this, it's more expensive right now. I don't know how RTR operated things, but across all events, and for us for that matter, it's harder to manage and operate with higher prices, inflation, and those types of things. All of our vendors, venues, food costs have all increased. But for us, we've kind of scaled back, try to operate within our means and try to make it viable. So it hasn't been easy. I will say RTR, Ride the Rockies, is a more challenging environment since it's a 5-day ride. They have more logistics. They're changing venues every day. So it's more expensive operationally. And also from the consumer standpoint, like they're looking at it from lodging, meals, entertainment, etc., while they're coming to these towns. So, costs are a factor. And then, kind of the third real kind of big thing is like, there's a lot of activities, a lot of other events going on, a lot of things they can choose from in the summertime. I've seen over the years, a lot of people do our events and then they do our Ride the Rockies, so it depends on what they are interested in doing that summer. But I do think it's hard for people to take 5 days off of work for a multi-day ride and figuring out their vacation schedules and things like that. So Jeff, there's a lot of factors, and Bill, there's a lot of factors like how, registration's down, but these are kind of the big three areas that I kind of thought about.
Talking with Scott Olmstead, co-founder and owner of the Ride Collective here in Colorado. Scott, you manage a number of races here in Colorado. Can you talk to folks about those?
Yeah. We organize four events. They range from the Western Slope over in Grand Junction to the Rocky Mountains. And then we also put on one down in New Mexico, in northern New Mexico near Taos and Red River. They range from different abilities, shorter mileages to long distances, 3 mountain passes. So we kind of put ourselves in a bucket where you can do them all if you want to.
And what are the names of those races?
Yeah. So we organize the Copper Triangle, the Enchanted Circle, Tour of the Moon, and Tour out in Palisades.
We lost you on that last one. What was the last one?
Tour de Vineyards out in Palisades.
Nice. That would probably be my one. Tour de Vineyards. And how important are these races, particularly to the local communities in those mountain towns? I say this because I know this personally. With Leadville 100, which I've competed in twice, and then did the Leadville 50, and I've run the Trans Rockies race. When the guy that started Leadville 100, it was like a super unique race. There weren't a lot of 100-mile running races at that point. And what had happened was Leadville, the molybdenum mine, just outside of Leadville, had closed down. And so overnight, Leadville became the highest unemployed city in America. And so this guy's like, you know what? We got to do something to bring people to Leadville. So he launches the Leadville 100, which was a 100-mile race. And his thinking was, I can't just have a 5K because then people won't actually spend the night in my town. They won't get, hotel rooms and visit restaurants. They'll just come in and do the race and leave. So we got to do a really hard race that lasts 30 hours. So they have to buy hotel rooms. And it was part of the transition of the city of Leadville from an unemployed mining town to a fun recreational town. So these races become core to the economy in these local communities. Talk a little bit about that from your perspective.
Yeah, absolutely, Jeff. I mean, these towns, I think they rely on summer tourism. People, they need heads in beds. They need outside revenue and outside pockets of, would you say, to come in and support other things that they have going on. So I definitely think it's vital to these small towns. I also know that these small towns have a challenge, and mountain towns have a challenge for that matter. I think they saw a huge flux of people coming in during COVID and experiencing the outdoors and trying something new, but while trying to support these traditional events that they've had. So I know that they've had a challenge because they're limited based on what they can support. But they also know that it's an important piece from a marketing and PR standpoint from a longer term, impact on these communities. So I think they have a challenge, Jeff, but I know they look at it hard and they want to support them. I just think it's a lot different. Obviously, when Ride the Rockies started 37 years ago, these small towns weren't as big, and so they needed an avenue to promote their town. And I do think Ride the Rockies put some of these towns on the map, for these people to come in and see and experience their small town. So I know that they have a challenge, but I also know it's vital to their community.
This was founded by the Denver Post. I did not know that. It's been sold since to a management organization, but Ride the Rockies originally founded by the Denver Post, which was interesting. All right, got a text message here. Scott Olmstead, co-founder, owner of the Ride Collective. Why I'm not riding: 1, cost. The hotels are getting too expensive. 2, the road conditions. Interesting. And then 3, the roads are packed with maniacs. Talk about road conditions and biker safety out there.
Yeah, I mean, road conditions, you're always going to have road construction in the summer. I mean, we're limited based on the season. And I can't speak too much about how CDOT and allocate funds to different roads and things like that. Our events are just standalone on the same roads every year, and they do have road construction on them. But as for Ride the Rockies, they have a little bit more of a challenge. Like they're traveling from I think this year they were going from Steamboat all the way to Fruita, and so some of those roads may not be as impactful as, say, Vail Pass.
But do you hear from, just even outside the events, do you hear from the cycling community complaints about road conditions?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, road conditions are always is a hard thing to manage, but yes, the roads are an important piece of that. Yeah.
How about just roads, rider safety with cars? I mean, honestly, that's why I don't ride bikes out there, because I'm like lunatics on their phones, watching Instagram reels instead of paying attention to the road. Is that a real concern among cyclists out there?
Yes, I think so. There are some great nonprofits in Colorado that are trying to help combat that. But people do need to pay attention. I will say events, Jeff, are one of the safest ways people can ride on roads. There's a lot more people out there. We have a ton of support, so there's more visibility and accountability in that manner. So I do think events are important piece that people can understand that, hey, events are a way for people to get out and ride.
Scott Olmstead, the co-founder and owner of the Ride Collective, joining Jeff and Bill this morning, talking about Ride the Rockies. Not happening. And that is a mainstay. I have friends that have been riding for years. This is going to absolutely crush them. I'm not nearly in good enough shape to do this, but still. What I want to talk to you about, Scott, is the idea of, it's a little bit outside the conversation, but the idea of e-bikes. How have e-bikes impacted the cyclist community? Because I can see the idea of, moped versus motorcycle. I'm really pedaling the entire time. You're just being a pansy and letting the battery do the work. How are the e-bikes being integrated into the riding community right now?
For me, I love e-bikes. It's obviously helping keeping cycling active and longevity for these older folks that are that can't ride as strongly as they did over Vail Pass. So I strongly, I love it. It's our events are not timed, Jeff and Bill. So, they're just tours. People can, start at we do have start times, but there are, it's not a timed event. And so people go at their leisure, take pictures and those types of things. And so, e-bikes in my mind is a great thing. For timed events, it doesn't necessarily work because obviously you have a motorized bike, and so it doesn't necessarily work in that manner. But I do think it's getting people more, staying active. We're one of the active states in Colorado, and so I do think it's helping in that manner, in being healthy, exercising, and those types of things. So I love it.
Peter Boyles uses the gas-powered bike.
Yeah, if I could e-bike the Rockies, I'll e-bike the Rockies. I'll do that. I can't do the pedaling. No, that'd kill me.
Scott Olmstead, co-founder and owner of the Ride Collective, joining the Jeff and Bill show to discuss this headline. Came out over the weekend. Famed Ride the Rockies bike event canceled due to low registration. Scott, give us again the 3 reasons why you think that's happening. One is just people are getting older, right? 2, costs. And then 3rd, remind me what those 3 were.
Just more activities,
It's
harder, I think, vacations and just scheduling things, and there's a lot going on here in this state. And so how do you choose, what you do in the summer? So I do think there's more activities in that manner.
Scott, people want to join the races you manage. Where do they go? What's the websites?
Yeah, they could go to our website. It's called theridecollective.com. We do have registrations open. We are actually doing we're higher than we were last year at this point. So,
that's great.
Like I said, the events aren't going away, nor is cycling. So there's other great alternatives out there if people want to partake in. And so our website is theridecollective.com.
Scott Olmstead, co-founder and owner of the Ride Collective, giving us insight into what happened with the Ride the Rockies and the cycling industry in general here in Colorado. Appreciate you being on the Jeff and Bill show.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, guys. Have a great Monday.
Thank you. Look, this is an important part of Colorado.
Yeah, it is.
I know we get into the political conversations, the hard hitting, we're going to debate Trump trials, that type of stuff. But I love this state. I absolutely adore the mountains and get up there and the tourism. And I was a river guide for 5 summers and mountain guide and rock climbing and all that stuff and running races. This is a really key part of Colorado's economy. And you got to support the people in those small towns up there in Colorado, in the mountains. But I think he's right when it comes to inflation and the costs. People are making hard choices there. The age thing, maybe. Obviously, it's not the heyday of Lance Armstrong anymore.
Yeah.
So,
and it is weird that, I don't know how much riding as far as bicycling do your kids do?
Not a ton.
Yeah.
We live in a rural community and they kind of ride around a little bit, but it's not kind of like what it was when we were kids.
Yeah.
Where you rode your bike everywhere.
Yeah, me either. And it's not even close as far as the number of miles, because when we were kids, the bike was freedom. And I think it's not necessarily anymore, in part because the cell phone allows the same type of geographic connections, things like that. So I think that's kind of supplanted it, and I think it's made it worse. And I think that's part of it as well, as far as new riders, is we don't see that because a lot of the kids aren't spending that much time on the bike.
Yeah.
Well,
get up to the mountains, enjoy it this summer, and check out the ridecollective.com, be a part of some of the races. I think the key thing is it's not all Tour de France, timed
Yeah.
races where you're going to have to be, fighting people. You just cruise the Rocky Mountains.
Oh, yeah.
Look, with all the work I've had done to my teeth, believe me, and I've had just about every procedure you can imagine done to my teeth, this is where the Lord has not blessed me well. Finding a good dentist makes all the difference. I'd like to tell you about Dr. Mike at Rocky Mountain Dental Group. He helps provide people like you and me the services necessary to look and feel amazing by providing the best dental care available. You can see for yourself all the 5-star reviews at RockyMountainDentalGroup.com. Here's one. Do yourself a favor. Go there, staffed beyond expectations, and they provide excellent service, affordable, friendly, reasonable, gentle, careful, kind service. And if you're experiencing recession on your upper or lower gums, ask Dr. Mike about the groundbreaking procedure called pinhole gum rejuvenation technique, a treatment option for those experiencing receding gums. It's scalpel-free, suture-free, and a graft-free procedure. Just a tiny pinhole and a gentle repositioning of the gums. Visit RockyMountainDentalGroup.com. That's RockyMountainDentalGroup.com, or call 303-233-1335 for a free consultation. 303-233-1335. Dr. Mike is an awesome guy. Go check him out. I think he will provide the service you need. And it's just a great guy to work for. That matters in your dentist, right? So check out Dr. Mike at the Rocky Mountain Dental Group. All right, when we come back, 7:30, Barb Kirkmeyer, state senator. What is going on? Pullis signs $24 million funding bill to help schools with new immigrant students. But it's a bipartisan bill. I want to get the lowdown. Senator Barb Kirkmeyer will join us.
Senator to you.
Dr. Senator to you. Dr. Mike at Rocky Mountain Dental Group and
Yes.
Senator Barb Kirkmeyer. All these official titles.
I know. And mine is just loser. Yeah.
I know.
You didn't have to agree so quickly. Taking it personally.
I have an official title. I never use it.
Yeah.
I have a master's of divinity and I'm ordained. So I'm actually the Reverend. And my kids like to make fun of me about that. The Reverend.
That
the
is
Reverend
funny.
El Jefe.
Oh,
is
that's
what
great.
they call me.
Oh, that's great. That's fantastic.
All right, we'll be right back. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
At this hour in London, I'm Julia Chapman, and here are the top stories we're following. A court in Manhattan will hear opening statements and witness testimonies in the first ever criminal trial of a former U.S. president. Donald Trump is facing 34 felony counts related to the alleged payment of hush money to a porn star ahead of the 2016 presidential election. He denies the charges. Jagruti Dave has more.
The trial in Lower Manhattan's criminal court could last from 6 to 8 weeks. It will hear from witnesses including Michael Cohen, Donald Trump's former lawyer, and Stormy Daniels, the former adult film star who alleges she had a sexual encounter with Donald Trump. Mr. Trump has pleaded not guilty and says the trial is a witch hunt designed to damage his re-election chances.
TikTok says any ban of the platform in the US would trample on free speech and devastate millions of businesses. It comes after the House of Representatives voted that TikTok should be banned if it doesn't distance itself from China. TikTok is owned by ByteDance, a company many American officials say is controlled by the authorities in Beijing. If the bill is passed by the Senate and signed by President Joe Biden, ByteDance will have 9 months to sell its stake in TikTok. And that's what you need to know at this hour. I'm Julia Chapman in London on Salem News Channel.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. I saw this headline over the weekend from CPR. Polis signs $24 million funding bill to help schools with new immigrant students. The Colorado Department of Education will distribute approximately $24 million from the state education fund to school districts and charter schools that recently enrolled new immigrant students. A bipartisan, that's kind of what caught my attention here. A bipartisan group of lawmakers sponsored the bill, which was signed by Governor Jared Polis on Thursday. Lawmakers said school districts in Colorado have received about 7,000 unexpected students between October of 2023 and March of 2024. Schools are scrambling to ensure that they have the funds to be able to support both our new students and the needs that they have with paraprofessionals, folks who can help with English language acquisition and all the wraparound services that they need, as well as supporting all the students who are already in our schools as we face some overcrowding in classrooms. This comes from Democratic Representative Emily Sirota of Denver, whose her statement made during the bill signing ceremony. Republican Senator Barbara Kirkmeyer of Weld and Larimer counties praised the passage of the bill, but called on her colleagues to ensure resources are not divested from documented students. It's important that we treat our new arrivals with respect, but that we also ensure the educational outcome for our children that are in these schools, that exist in these schools now, Kirkmeyer said. Joining us on the Jeff and Bill Show is Senator Barb Kirkmeyer. Thanks so much for being on the program.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
So give me a sense of your position in supporting these bills. I think most Republicans are pretty frustrated that we've become a sanctuary state. Denver's a sanctuary city. You have a lot of resources, 90 million in Denver being put towards illegal immigrants. What was your reasoning behind supporting this bill?
Yeah, and and I can understand that position. And in fact, when I spoke on the floor, and a lot of those comments that you read were actually my comments that I made, both on the floor and during the signing ceremony of the bill. But I think we all understand we are in the midst of a government-made crisis. People who are not American citizens who have come to our country by their choice have created an issue in terms of health, safety, and well-being for the children in our schools, but not only just the children in our schools, and I think you've probably spoke about this before, but for citizens who are in need of medical care, or our legal residents who live in poverty, or our hardworking tax-paying Coloradoans. I agree with all of that. But here's the other issue. When you have 7,000 new students coming into our schools that do not speak English, we don't know what grade level they're at, what kind of education they've received, if any, from the country that they've come from. They have strained our existing school infrastructure. The staffing, just as you said, it's led to overcrowded classrooms. But even in smaller school districts, even when I talk to school districts up in Kersey or different parts of Weld County, folks that have come down to the Capitol, and I've had conversations with them, it only takes one or two. It only takes one or two undocumented immigrants to show up in your school system to really mess with all the resources that come through and really basically put a strain on the learning environment and compromising the educational outcome for existing students that are enrolled in our Colorado schools. So that's why I supported it. The other portion of it is, I know the Democrats wanted to make this about, the migrants coming here. Well, we purposely did not use the definition or use the terminology migrant or immigrant, because those are definitions that are in federal law and state law, and they mean something else. In Weld County, we're used to dealing with migrant students who are here maybe through October for the count, and then leave to go home when their parents go home because they're in the farm worker industry kind of thing. But again, there's federal requirements that we have to allow these students in our schools. These undocumented immigrants, they have to be allowed into our schools. The state requires it as well. And what was not happening is schools were spending a lot of resources trying to educate these new arrivals, these undocumented immigrants, and it was taken away from our existing students. So to me, it was the impact to the existing students.
That was the question I was going to ask with regards to, is it law that we have to serve them and put them into public schools when they come to America?
Yeah, it's the law.
Absolutely, it is. It's both at the federal and state level that they have to be allowed into the schools, and we have to give them a public school education.
That's an interesting point to me. I think conservatives, when I look at all I guess what caught me off guard, especially with Mayor Mike Johnston's plan to serve illegal immigrants in Denver, is just the breadth of the social services that we're now providing. And this, you had nothing to do with this, Senator Barb Kirkmeyer, but in Denver with Mayor Mike Johnston, it was, $90 million, 6 months of apartment complex or apartment funding, debit cards for food and personal items, legal services, workforce training. No wonder, honestly, just no wonder people come to America because of the amount of government services. But is the $24 million coming from somewhere else? Where's that money coming from? Are there going to be cuts in other services? Or I guess explain a little bit where the funding for this comes from.
Sure. The funding came from the state education fund, but it also came from additional funding that came in this budget year. So in the 22-23, in the 23-24, I have to remember what year we're in. So it came in the 23-24 state budget year, an additional $24 million from the school districts that instead of spending, because we didn't need it at that time in January, February timeframe when we were doing this as the Joint Budget Committee, because I also sit on the Joint Budget Committee, we put it into the state education fund. So it was additional funding that came in this current budget year that we then put into the state education fund. When we started hearing from our school districts and the sheer number of students, approximately 7,000 students. At first, I think a lot of us thought, okay, well, this is Denver's problem, and it's just happening in Denver public schools. But it was happening in schools like up in Alt, Colorado, which is north of Greeley, in Carbondale, in Kersey, out in the Eastern Plains. I was talking to all of my fellow caucus members, and it's a statewide issue. It may not be as intense as it is in the Denver public schools or in the Aurora public schools, but it's happening everywhere. And that's when we decided that those funds that were additional funds that came in from the school districts that were supposed to go towards and they are essentially supposed to go towards the state, funding of schools throughout the state of Colorado. That's where we decided to get the funding from. And the reason it was $24 million is because that is the dollar amount that was essentially reverted back or increased into the state education fund in this budget year.
Senator Barb Kirkmeyer with Jeff and Bill talking about $24 million being allocated by Polis and the state to help with immigrant children that are showing up in our schools. Barb, can you talk a little bit more about the difficulty in the educational plan for these immigrant kids? And what I'm talking about is why they cost a little bit more than what the average student does on par.
Yes, it's the whole part about learning English. They don't speak English. So you have to get in additional resources, teachers, staff that can teach, that are bilingual and that can teach English to these students. So instead of, lowering the educational outcome or the standard of education in each classroom, you have to essentially move them into a different classroom so that you teach them English before you can start teaching them other things like math and science and reading, in English. So it costs additional resources, it costs additional staff. So that's why in the bill, we put in this tiering mechanism. So it's not all about just per student funding. We put in a tiering system so that, for example, and I kept using the example of the Kersey School District because they have one elementary school, one junior high, and one high school. And they're about, for people who don't know, Kersey is about 15, 20 miles or so east of Greeley. So it's up in Weld County. And it's a smaller school district. It's a rural school district. So if they get one or two students, maybe there's two students in the elementary school and then a couple students in the high school, it impacts where all their resources are going. So they take away from the existing students that are there, the resources from them, so that they can go fund additional bilingual teachers or staff. So that's why we put in funding tiers in the bill as well. So if you had, first of all, if you did a count and you had 1 to 5 new arrivals, you would for sure get $15,000 so that you could go hire a half-time, new teacher that speaks that is bilingual and speaks Spanish and can assist with helping these students learn how to speak English. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does.
Are you following me there? Okay.
Yeah, and it
Making sure.
does need to be tiered because it is more expensive to educate the immigrant students. In part, exactly what you outlined. It is ESL programs. It's English as a second language, because any of us could imagine how difficult it would be as an elementary, middle school, or high school student when all of a sudden you're dropped into Germany, France, Spain, another country in which you have to keep up with these students that speak the language and learn the language at the same time. So you end up having an educational deficit. Some of the things that we complained about with all the homeschooling and how horrible it was and how the kids didn't stay up, with the rest of their peers, that is exacerbated when you have immigrant kids because you don't even understand what's happening inside of the classroom. Yeah, it's hard.
Exactly. Quite frankly, they have limited or no English proficiency at all.
Yeah.
So we're starting from scratch kind of thing. And can you imagine putting that into a classroom that's already, halfway through the year and they're learning all these other things? And then, the teacher is spending all their time with this one student or 2 or 3 students, whatever it happens to be, depending on, which classroom it is and which district it is. But that's it exactly.
But
so that's why we did
help me understand
Yeah.
where the line is. I just I'm looking at all the services we're providing to illegal immigrants in this country. And it just doesn't seem like it's ever enough. I mean, we're now moving $24 million to try for people that showed up with their kids that couldn't speak the language. Like, these people brought their kids to a country and they can't speak the language. And it's our job to have to pay for them to learn it. I don't know.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it is. The federal government has a directive that requires states provide a uniform public education and ensures equitable access to educational opportunities for all students, regardless of background or location. So that's why I started off every single one of my conversations on this with the crisis that is at hand. And it's government made, but it's also made by people who are not American citizens who have chosen to come to our country. Nobody told them they had to come here. I mean, I understand they may have some horrible living conditions in their countries. They may be under, different stresses than we are here. But at the same time, it is a very difficult situation. You're exactly right, Jeff. Where does the undocumented immigrant, where does that support stop versus supporting Coloradoans, hardworking, tax-paying citizens? I mean, the stress to our healthcare system. If you were to hear stories about Denver General Health and what's going on there, I mean, we funded some additional funding to our rural hospitals and to Denver General Health because, again, there's a lot of these folks that are showing up, and we've got a Medicaid situation, and then we also have undocumented immigrants or coming here and flooding our healthcare system as well. You're right. It is a problem, and it starts at the federal government, and they need to secure our border. I mean, we've all had the discussions with, why are these folks getting to jump the line? Because that's essentially what's happening. I mean,
Right.
I live in Weld County, and, we've dealt with this to some degree already over several years, but it is a situation that we have to figure out. Is it undocumented immigrant support, or are we going to support existing people who, existing American citizens who live here now? I mean, what are we going to do, and how do we do that? And what is fair? I mean, there are just some very unique challenges that we're trying to kind of walk that line through. But, I will tell you, when there was a supplemental that went through that I voted against, it was for $5 million of additional support directly, and they called it migrant support. And it was a supplemental, and it was back in February. And, I voted against it because it's like, look, we've got some real issues in our budget that we need to take care of for hardworking Coloradoans, where we need to consider first.
Talking with Senator Barb Kirkmeyer. Good text messages here. One from, I think, a district close to you, 0359. She's talking about my school district. 7 out of 1,000 students from Venezuela and Honduras and Guatemala has had a huge impact on us. If we don't provide an education, we'll end up with an uneducated, unemployable population. They seem to agree with you on with that. Senator, I really appreciate it coming on and taking questions and being willing to explain your reasoning behind the vote to our listeners. I really appreciate you taking the time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And anytime, happy to come back anytime. Anybody has any questions, please let me know. And thank you. Thank you for having me, and have a great day.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Barb Kirkmeyer, part of the bipartisan coalition that supported a $24 million funding bill to help schools with new immigrant students. I noticed there were Republicans that voted for it, obviously her, and Republicans that didn't. And I appreciate her coming on. I think I would be in the category that would probably be a no vote on this, just because I don't know where the line is that at some point you've got to set a line, and continuing to provide all of these services over and over and over again just draws people to our state. But I understand too her argument. Like, look, they've made it federal law that we've got to educate these students. And if they're going to come into our schools, then you're going to draw funding from existing students. So I understand her perspective.
Yeah, it is tough. I know of a Cherry Creek school district elementary school where last time they counted, I think it's 28 or 30 different languages spoken in the elementary school. Different languages. So, I mean, it is a huge stress. And so these are not all Hispanic immigrants. These are immigrants that have come from China, immigrants that have come from, let's see, they've got some Filipinos, they've got some Africans, they've got some, there's some people that, you know, they don't have language skills. And yeah, so it's a huge, huge issue. At one point, I think they said they were intaking something like 7 kids every 14 to 18 days is what it was looking like at one point. Yeah, new kids. And the fun part is they sometimes will show up in the middle of the semester or school year. So, sure. So, no, and that can happen just when moving. Yeah, that can happen on moving, but it's even more complicated if it's an immigrant family. And there's a Middle Eastern immigrant family that I know of that got into had a tremendous problem. They're new to the country. They're working on the English. They're trying to navigate our system, and they found a better deal on an apartment for the family. They moved 3 blocks away.
Different school district.
Changed districts. They didn't understand why that Monday they couldn't come back to the same school. Now they have to go and re-register. And they honestly, if they would have known that, they say they wouldn't have moved because they were very happy with where their kids were in the school, and they didn't know that was the rule.
Text messages here. It seems like we just have an endless supply of taxpayer money. It's a sad joke.
Jeff Bezos and Musk have a pile of cash. Yes, we do.
Spread
we can
it
get
around
a lot of taxpayer money if we wanted it. A lot of it.
Illegal undocumented immigrants need to be given work permits and should be taxed at a higher rate to pay for all the services we're providing.
Higher rate, though.
I'm a fan of the flat tax.
That's interesting. Yeah.
All right. Your home is a significant asset, and choosing the right team to help you sell it can be the difference in thousands of dollars in your pocket. I highly recommend Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team, the realtors I trust. The Empower Home team provides exceptional service and valuable advice and employs unique systems to maximize the money you can get for your home. Getting an offer above your home's asking price is great, but you're leaving money on the table by not working with Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team. Gay and her experts get their clients an average, listen to this, of $30,000 more. Could you use an extra $30,000, especially in this economy? You know you can. That's precisely why you need Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team. Their exclusive database is filled with pre-screened buyers ready to make a purchase. Just take the stress and hassle out of selling your home while getting the best price. Here's an unbeatable offer. Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team will sell your house for 100% of the asking price, or Gay will pay you the difference. It's an offer you simply cannot refuse. Get 100% of the asking price guaranteed with Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team. Give them a call at 833-301-SOLD. That's 833-301-SOLD, or go to gayhasthebuyers.com. That's GAYE hasthebuyers.com. In the 8 o'clock hour, Lauren Boebert's joining us. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, KNUS.
Great conversation with Barb Kirkmeyer, state senator, on this $24 million funding bill that Polis signed to help schools with new immigrant students. I appreciated her coming on, explaining her vote. A lot of lawmakers don't do that. When we come back, 8 o'clock hour, Lauren Boebert's joining us for the same reason, pretty much. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
In the Mile High City. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show on 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights, hottest takes from the right, left, center, and sometimes crazy. It's another great day in America's greatest city. We're gearing up for a whole nother hour of engaging discussions, critical analysis, and most importantly, your calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So grab a cup of coffee, Denver, and let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. Feel free to give us a call to share your thoughts. 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971, or text us on the 710 KNUS app. What do you think of Senator Barb Kirkmeyer's arguments for supporting $24 million of taxpayer dollars for illegal immigrants in our schools? Her argument, we are mandated by law to provide an equitable education for them. That's federal law, state law. And if we don't provide the funding, resources are going to be pulled away from existing students and used on these illegal immigrant students that are now in our schools. my argument, at a certain point, you got to draw a line. And when we continue to provide services after services after services after services, we are now drawing people to our country. We're suffering in so many other ways with inflation, with the economy, and with spending going in so many other areas. It's got to be America first. And so, tough vote. Some Republicans voted for it. Some Republicans voted against it. But love to hear your thoughts. 303-696-1971 or text us on the 710 KNUS app. A little bit later in the hour, Lauren Boebert is going to be joining us. Big vote over the weekend as the House passes a key foreign aid package. House passed a $95 billion package providing foreign aid for Ukraine, Israel, and the Indo-Pacific region, essentially supporting Taiwan. A fourth bill in the package addressed another House GOP priority, including sanctions on Iran and a measure that could lead to a TikTok ban. Lauren Boebert voted against these bills and against this package. We're going to get her reasoning a little bit later in the show. All right, let's check it on the news with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Morning, Jeff. Morning, Billy. 51 and mostly cloudy in Denver. We're going for a high of 76 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story, a 6-year-old is safe and a suspect is in custody following that kidnapping in Aurora that triggered an Amber Alert Sunday night. A man stole a vehicle from a gas station while the child was inside. Authorities haven't said where or how they found the child. The suspect's identity hasn't been released.
That's like a nightmare. There are like a few things that would absolutely terrify me with regards to my kids. One is, you do something like that, you're pumping gas or something, and something happens where your kids are in the car. The other one was, and we lived in DC when our kids were first born, like one of them like walking off the metro and then the door shut and you're stuck and you're like, ah! Oh my gosh. I feel terrible for those parents that had to go through that.
I do too. Before I had kids, I was carjacked in my driveway in Dallas.
No.
And so, after I had kids, when I had them in the back, it's terrifying. So, you think about that stuff and it ticks me off.
What happened? You got to tell more of the story.
Me home from I was actually, if you know Kurt Menefee, he's you see him on Fox NFL. So he hired me in Dallas. We were doing some show. One night I leave the TV station, actually near Brandon Tatum's old neighborhood, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
So I'm leaving the station. I was tired. It's 11 o'clock. 4 guys followed me and didn't even think about parking my driveway. I turned the ignition off. There they are. And
gun drawn?
338s pointed at me, and they tried to steal the car. They couldn't drive a stick, so they couldn't steal the car. They got $13. I thought I was gonna die. I saw Jesus, and then 3 years later, an investigator called me and said, "Hey, we found your wallet in Alabama. You should feel lucky. These guys killed 2 people on the way from Texas to Alabama." So anyway, after I had the kids, it was just horrifying when I would think about stuff like that. And it makes me so mad when I think about that.
Did you just hand the keys over? Were you just
I handed the keys over and lost everything, all control of my body. It's the most frightening thing that's ever happened to me in my life. There is no doubt. So, thank God and thank you, Jesus. So let's see. We talked about that story. Yeah. Okay. So let me move on to happier things here. The 38th or sad things. 38th Ride the Rockies bicycle tour has been canceled due to limited registration, and posted online that they were assessing the best options for this beloved ride. Scott Olmstead joined Jeff and Bill from the Ride Collective.
15 years ago, cycling was hot. We called those the Lance Armstrong years. Lance was in the news every day. Cycling was relevant. People were motivated. They were inspired. And now they're in their 60s and they're, probably not riding as much. So, age has a factor right now for sure.
Opening statements in the former President Trump campaign derailment trial getting underway right now in New York. 7 men, 5 women make up the jury. Trump's attorney, Will Scharf, on Fox News Sunday.
We're focusing on the facts because the facts show that President Trump did absolutely nothing wrong. This is a business records case. Those business records accurately reflected payments to one of President Trump's lawyers as legal retainer fees. Additionally, those records weren't actually entered by President Trump. He was busy running the country from the White House while all this was happening in Trump Tower in New York.
48 in Aurora, 49 in North Glen, 51 in Denver. In 2015, Deion Sanders begged security guard John Darjan to take away the phone from his son Shiloh, who was totally out of control in high school. He had a track record. He hit Darjan several times, attacked him, and Darjan suffered serious spinal injuries, could not work, lost all ability to do anything, wanted to work it out with Deion, but Prime got a little ahead of it and told TMZ that Darjan was the bad guy. Now Darjan telling his story. He was on with Jason Whitlock over the weekend.
Let's sit down and talk about it like grown men. He steals the videos. He puts me on TMZ and changes his story. Yeah, you know why you don't want to reach out to me? Because you're a liar. You're a compulsive liar, and you say, I don't lie. But you are a liar, so you got caught in your lie.
Now, Darjan won a lawsuit of nearly $12 million, but hasn't seen a penny of that yet. He has not been paid. I feel for this guy. I mean, he has gone through a lot. I had no idea with the TMZ information and all that. So you could see the story. He has a documentary out, and some shady things occurred during this investigation. I mean, it's pretty incredible. All right, the Nuggets try to up their lead 2-0 tonight in their opening round series against the Lakers. Avalanche lose to Winnipeg last night, 7-6 in their opening round game. Game 2 is tomorrow in the NHL playoffs. Rockies open a 3-game series with the Padres tonight. They split with the Mariners on Sunday. The Broncos unveiling their new look with their uniforms in about an hour, and we'll have much more. Never know. Maybe we can paint a picture of it. Monday continues with Jeff and Bill right here. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Now there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts, text message your favorite local hosts, call the show, get the latest headlines, and enter contests to win prizes. All in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
All right. Over the weekend, the House passes key foreign aid package. The House passed a $95 billion package providing foreign aid for Ukraine, Israel, and the Indo-Pacific region. A fourth bill in the package addressed other House GOP priorities, including sanctions on Iran and a measure that could lead to a TikTok ban. The legislation will be combined into a single amendment as it moves on to the Senate, where Majority Leader Chuck Schumer said lawmakers will begin voting on it Tuesday. How did it feel, Bill, to see the Democrats waving the Ukrainian flag on Saturday?
It was good. I support Ukraine in this one. I don't want to give any of the country to Putin and Russia. I think that's a bad idea. They're imperfect, but they're a heck of a lot closer to a really good democracy than they were 5, 6, 10 years ago. So I like it. I like the idea. Funny, I agreed with all the extra funding. I thought it was interesting they tried to divide it into different pieces and see who can pick and choose like a menu. That was always the idea that Republicans pushed back on, is you want to have the menu. Pick and choose the menu. And you got it. And I think it's strong. In fact, the thing that surprised me the most was Mike Johnson's very pro-Ukrainian speech.
Mm-hmm.
That shocked me.
Right, because he's
normally,
voted. He's voted against supplemental funding for Ukraine in the past. What do you think happened?
I think he realized how important it is, and that maybe we don't give Putin extra countries. I mean, it's functionally that's basically it for me. We've had some of this discussion before. Is if we really don't think that we need to be funding what's going on in Ukraine, then I just want to know how many countries Putin is allowed to have, because that's what we're doing is we're giving him Ukraine. Fine, if that's it. Is that just the only one, or are we going to spend our money when he invades another country because he said he's going to and wants to? So even if it's not a NATO country, if it's just not NATO, then we don't care. I mean, that's where I'm curious about where the GOP is at this time. Are they more the party of Reagan, or are they more the party of Trump? And by that, I mean the party of Reagan, which is Mr. Gorbachev tearing down this wall, looking at them as the evil empire and seeing Russia as an adversary, where the party of Trump is, well, even if our allies, if they haven't paid up the bills to a point where we're agreeable to that, Russia can do whatever the hell they want to them, even our allies. And that's a different idea.
I found it wildly out of touch. The waving of the Ukrainian flags.
Okay, why?
Wildly out of touch.
Yeah, why?
Because things are very hard right now for Americans. Things are very hard, and we just spent billions of dollars.
Yeah.
To me, it was like, I even saw a tweet at one point. It was like, I understand how the French Revolution took place, like the kind of Maria Antoinette, eat your cake, all that stuff, where you like the elites are so out of touch with the pain and the suffering that Americans are going through right now in their own personal lives, and you're up there celebrating, waving flags. And this doesn't have to do with whether or not Ukraine is worthy or not worthy, or who do we need to stop Putin. But when you're putting that amount of money into other countries, when our country is facing the challenges that it's facing right now, I just sat there and was like, gosh, man, seriously, we're so far in debt. Inflation is so bad. We have our own border issues right now, people pouring across. It's hard to be an American right now.
Well,
it's very hard to be an American.
Really?
And yeah, we just talked about how people aren't even doing the ride the Rockies anymore. And one of the reasons why is because they can't afford it. And here you have, yay, look at all this. We're sending all this money over to other countries. I was like,
so you'd prefer the government to be sending checks to the Americans. We should just cut checks to Americans.
No, I just wish we would stop all the spending, because that money comes from somewhere. It comes from taxes. It's contributed to inflation. Our debt has contributed to inflation. I'm frustrated with it all. And I think a lot of other Americans are frustrated. Put this country first and quit sending so much dang money to other countries.
At the core of it, I don't believe that you and others really want to stop the spending. You want to stop. You want to stop some spending, because you don't want to stop spending.
Not all of it. Yeah, I'm not a libertarian.
Well, that's the thing is, you just said that we want to stop the spending and everything. And the spending's out of control and all the deficit. But some of those constraints on the spending, you wouldn't be happy with. And that's kind of the problem. Also, the thing for me is this is a foreign budget versus the domestic budget, which we're dealing with the border. They're two different piles of money. And so I understand the idea.
Money.
I
all
understand.
Comes from the same spot.
Yeah, us. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
I don't see the problem with that. I understand that we have to have that because we need things. We need them to do things functionally. I mean, you and I can't afford our own police force. We can't afford our own electricity company. There's certain things that the government needs to functionally make sure is done. I'm not paving the road in front of my house.
Right. No. And I think
those are things that have to go.
You're jumping to the idea that somehow I don't think there should be any government spending. But
you just said stop the spending.
Yes, stop the spending. It's out of control.
I know, but it's the spending.
It's like watching a teenager. Yeah, of course. And the spending you agree with.
Yeah.
Look, when I saw that, of course it is.
No.
It is when I saw those flags raising, I just went, man, these guys are so out of touch with where a majority of Americans are. Would you
feel the same way if they were waving Israeli flags after the vote?
I thought about that.
Would you feel the same way?
So for me, it's it's not like there are some people that are like only American flags should ever fly on the floor. And maybe Lauren will say that in a second. And I understand that argument, but I also would have voted for Israeli defense spending and against Ukrainian defense spending.
But the flag issue, that's what I'm looking at is, would you come to the same conclusion about lawmakers, whether they're Democrats or Republicans, waving Israeli flags after the vote?
Probably.
Okay.
Yeah. Because I just think the celebration of the spending is just bizarre to me.
Okay.
Where it's like we are in so much debt and we have so many problems, and it's like, yay, we just spent a ton, billions of dollars in another country. And you're just like, really?
Well,
really?
Would you then say that in order to constrain the spending, you'd be okay with cutting out the funding for Israel? Because that would constrain spending.
Possibly, especially the funding that goes to freaking Gaza and Hamas.
Yeah, that's fair.
That have you seen that meme where it's like missiles are flying and it's like my taxpayer dollars, and then missiles are flying to shoot down the missiles that are flying? It says somehow also my tax dollars.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I'm exhausted of that.
Well, that's our defense industry.
Look, I've
our defense
gotten
industry
so
selling them. That's what they do.
And look, I was all in on Iraq and Afghanistan, man. I was all in there, and 20 years later, I'm like, what did we get out of it? And I definitely look way more negatively on Ukraine than I do on Israel. Israel, I think there's a role there to defend them. They're surrounded by hostile, radical Islamic countries that'll destroy that area in the Middle East, and that is an important part of this world. And with Ukraine, I'm like, I'm just more looking at why Europe's not providing the funds that need to defend that if it's so important.
Oh, they are. They're providing some.
To the tune of what we're spending?
I don't know the numbers, but I know they're spending money.
I don't know.
But again, if you're the richest kid on the block, you can kind of afford to
throw the
biggest party.
We're $37 trillion in debt.
No,
we're at this point, it's monopoly money. We're not the richest.
Yeah, we are on the block as far as Europe. Yeah, we are. It's not even a question about it.
There's so much debt. Give us a call. When you saw those flags waving on the floor, the Ukrainian flags, were you proud? You go, yes, America is defending democracy abroad. We're reliving the legacy of Reagan. Did you feel that way? Or did you look at that and go, my goodness, these guys are so out of touch with the real problems Americans are facing. I don't want to see other flags being waved when we're $37 trillion in debt. We can't close our own border. Everyone's dealing with rocket high inflation, and we're struggling.
Inflation's not rocket high, but
I don't know. It is for everybody else I'm dealing with. We're 20% since Biden took office. Give us a call, 303-696-1971. 303-696-1971, or text us on the 710 KNUS app. Do you have a high school student considering their college plans? Are they ready to discover more about their gifts and talents? Do you hope to see them become part of the next generation of Christian leaders? Your student is invited to Colorado Christian University's Discovery Preview. This week-long event is completely free. Discovery Preview is designed for students who desire to seek God's purpose and calling in their lives. Students are immersed in the community, culture, and mission of CCU. Workshops focused on calling, career, and Christ-centered leadership help them explore their unique strengths and potential career options. CCU's Christ-centered community takes students on a Colorado adventure, too. Experience the beauty of the Rocky Mountains. Eligible students can also qualify for a $1,250 annual scholarship for attending. Don't miss Discovery Preview this summer at CCU, June 17th through the 21st. The event is designed for juniors and seniors in high school, and again, is absolutely free. To learn more, go to ccu.edu/discovery. That's ccu.edu/discovery. We're talking House Pass's key foreign aid package. House passed a $95 billion package providing foreign aid for Ukraine, Israel, and the Indo-Pacific region. A fourth bill in the package addressed other House GOP priorities, including sanctions on Iran and a measure that could lead to a TikTok ban. The legislation will be combined into a single amendment as it moves on to the Senate, where Majority Leader Chuck Schumer said Colorado lawmakers will begin voting on it Tuesday. Senator Mike Lee from Utah strongly opposed to this bill, thinks we're giving away way too much for what we're getting, and is passionately arguing for U.S. senators to oppose this bill. What did you think about that? What did you think about the waving of the flags on the floor of the House Saturday morning or Saturday afternoon as this bill was passed? I'd love to hear from you. 303-696-1971 or text us on the 710 KNUS app. We'll get to your calls and texts. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
At this hour in London, I'm Julia Chapman, and here are the top stories we're following. Tesla is reducing the prices of its cars in the US and other countries after sales fell in the first 3 months of the year. Elon Musk's electric car giant has been facing intense competition from Chinese rivals. Last week, Tesla's share price fell below $150 a share, having plunged 40% since the start of the year. Ukrainians are breathing a sigh of relief after the U.S. House of Representatives passed a crucial funding bill for Ukraine worth $60 billion after months of delays. The aid is much needed for Kyiv as it is running dangerously low on ammunition and air defenses amid an expected major Russian offensive in the coming months. Megumi Lim reports from Kyiv.
Soon after the bill was passed on Saturday, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky thanked the U.S. House of Representatives. He said, quote, "We will use American support to strengthen both our nations and bring a just end to the war." He said Ukraine would have a chance at victory once military aid arrives. The U.S. Senate is expected to advance the bill in the coming days, and U.S. President Joe Biden has said that he will sign it into law.
And that's what you need to know at this hour. I'm Julia Chapman in London on Salem News Channel.
All right, we're talking House passes key foreign aid package. The House passed a $95 billion package providing foreign aid for Ukraine, Israel, and the Indo-Pacific region. Let's go to Tony in Littleton. Tony, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. What did you think about that bill?
Well, I think the whole weekend was hugely significant, and you're not going to be convinced, and I understand that, but maybe there's some comfort in when you think about, there's more than a dozen presidents between Roosevelt and Biden that would be supporting Ukraine. That it's only Trump that does not seem to understand our role in the globe in keeping it stable, and every president other than him did and does.
Do you support the war in Iraq?
No. I can understand the mistake that Bush made, and I can understand how he got there, but I think that was a huge mistake. And his father didn't. His father avoided exactly the same trap that he fell into. But that's Iraq. In this case, what was super significant was Johnson being, he's made several comments. He at the end of the day, he is a Reagan Republican. Peace through strength. And if we think about Europe being in a war with Russia, you think we struggle now, our economy would go to hell if they got into a war with Russia. That would be a disaster for us. We need the world stable. We need it operating so we can export goods. And our economy is based on the whole globe working well. And what Putin has done is tip that over. And Biden did the right thing by saying you're not going to get away with it. And Johnson realizes that. He basically has said the Democrats and Biden are right, and Trump and MAGA are wrong, and he is not going to destroy his own legacy.
I know you guys
supporting that.
I know Democrats are painting this as like Reagan engagement in the in Europe. I see it more like Vietnam. How did you support the war in Vietnam?
Not the same thing. There's a big difference right now. Okay. And Johnson said it. I mean, he said recently, what's been known for months. We're not. If right now we're sending weaponry, not a single American has died there. We couldn't have a better situation.
Tony from Littleton, I appreciate it. We got to run because joining us on the VIP line, Congressman Lauren Boebert. Thanks so much for taking time to be on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Well, good morning, gentlemen. It is wonderful to be on with you. I have some water running right now. I'm making my grandson a bottle.
Oh, nice.
That way, maybe he's not too noisy in the background for us.
Oh, no, not at all. That's great. I love that. Well, we know you had a very busy weekend. House passed a $95 billion package providing foreign aid for Ukraine, Israel, and Indo-Pacific region. You were a no vote on many of these bills. I think all of them. Can you give us your reasoning for your no votes on those bills?
Yes. Well, here's the thing. I spent weeks and hours with my colleagues from different factions of the Republican Party and the Speaker of the House trying to get to a solid, reasonable path forward. Now, we passed Israel aid funding months ago that was paid for. We said, hey, remember those 87,000 IRS agents that you want to spend $86 billion in tax funds to hire? They're going to be armed. They're required to use deadly force if necessary. To me, that's armed robbery, since taxation is theft. Well, we're going to defund some of them, and we're going to pay for Israel aid through that instead of borrowing it through from China. Well, we were coming up with all sorts of negotiations that were a little less political. Let's find a very reasonable pay for, so we aren't borrowing this money from China, so this isn't deficit spending, and let's put some sort of a clean Israel aid package on the floor, have an amendment to pay for it, and let the chips fall where they may. Israel's been attacked. We need to help them. And unfortunately, our speaker could not get away from funding Ukraine. Everything was tied to Ukraine except for our southern border. And in every aspect of these negotiations, I found myself agreeing with my most moderate and liberal Republican colleagues that we can find a path forward to both have legislation that secures our southern border, takes care of our nation's closest ally, Israel, and you get very limited Ukraine funding. We get humanitarian or lethal aid only to Ukraine, get them bullets rather than American bodies. And after we came to an agreement, after weeks and then hours and hours in meetings, we woke up to find that Mike Johnson went back to this horrible deal that had nothing for the border.
Yeah, why do you think that happened? In the past, he hadn't been supporting funding to Ukraine, had voted specifically against it, and now seems to come out very hawkish. What do you think happened to Speaker Mike Johnson, and what do you think of his leadership of the House?
The leadership that I've seen out of the speaker, unfortunately, is very pitiful at this point. I've never been more disappointed in any of my fellow colleagues in Washington, D.C. And I mean, that is saying a lot because there's disappointment that happens just about every day. And this has been, as Jim Banks of Indiana would say, the biggest flip-flop that any of us have ever seen in politics. He has not said since February 28th. February 28th was the last time that he said anything about our southern border being the number one priority, the hill to die on. Nothing passes without border security connected to it. February 8th was the last time he made any statement like that. And unfortunately, he resigned himself to the fact that Ukraine funding is most important. And I would think that the waving of the Ukrainian flags on the United States House of Representatives chamber floor with the speaker taking several minutes to even address it shows that Ukraine is his number one priority rather than our own priority. Look, you had Senator Barbara Kirkmeyer on earlier today, and she's talking about the crises that are created right here in Colorado by the illegal aliens that are coming into our country. And there is absolutely nothing to slow down the surge or to end that invasion or to secure our southern border in this near $100 billion that was spent.
Talking with Lauren Boebert, representative from Congressional District 3. She's running for Congressional District 4 now. Now, Ken Buck went on CNN, who occupied the seat that you're running for, which is the eastern part of Colorado, and basically said that the Marjorie Taylor Greene, he called her Moscow Marjorie, is playing into the hands of Russia. What's your response to those lawmakers that say by not supporting funding to Ukraine, you're actually supporting Russia?
Well, I mean, I don't think anybody's taking much note of what Ken Buck is saying nowadays. I would be beware of what he does in the future with friends like Kent Fury and trying to create jungle primaries in Colorado. But this is not our problem. We have sent over $110 billion to Ukraine. There is no strategy. There is no plan. We don't know where this money has gone. And we're just continuing to send money. $61 billion was just approved through the House of Representatives, and not a dime is going to our own southern border where we do have an existential crisis. We've had some almost 10 million illegal aliens come into our country in less than 4 years. Bill, this is a problem that needs to be addressed. And I'm tired of people saying that the only way to address it is having President Trump back in office. Of course, he's going to do something about it because he's going to be forced to. There's nothing that we're doing to force the Senate's hand and put pressure on them. We've sent just a couple of border bills over there. I think we should be sending them every day that we are in session. Look, you guys want to do something? Well, we've sent you 50 border bills. Go ahead and take one of those up and pass it, and let's get some actual security here. You want funding for Ukraine? Well, we want to have some sort of measurable mechanism in place to prove that the surge is slowing down at our southern border. We want Remain in Mexico. We want to end catch and release, bring back Title 42. And that's just not COVID related. There's all sorts of communicable diseases that come through our southern border. And so there's so many things that we can be doing. And instead, the only thing we've done is hire more agents at the border that are just there to process aliens in quicker and parole them into the country.
Lauren Boebert joining Jeff and Bill this morning. She's candidate for CD4. Want to bring you into a conversation that Jeff and I had a little bit earlier this morning and get your reaction to it. One of the questions I have is, inside the GOP, is it a legacy of Reagan or a legacy of Trump? And what I mean by that is, Reagan is the Mikhail Gorbachev, tear down this wall. Russia is the evil empire. Trump seems to be on the side of being more amenable to Russia, and in fact, in NATO with some of our allies, says if they aren't paid up, he would actually let Russia do whatever the hell they want to our allies. What's your feeling on that, and what camp do you feel you're more in? The traditional Reagan approach to foreign policy or the Trump approach to foreign policy?
Well, Bill, with some of the comments aside, I think it's easy to say that I'm very much a Trump Republican, and I'm not looking for zombie Reagan to come and save America. Under Reagan, look at the mass amnesty that we had. Under President Trump, we had peace through his strength. And that is real leadership. We didn't have these wars that we are funding both sides of. We weren't the world's police and sending money and keeping these wars going on when he was in office. Our enemies feared our leader because they knew that he would actually take action that mattered. And I think Afghanistan was the clear do whatever you want in the Biden administration, that horrific surrender to the Taliban. And here's my position, Bill. If Ukraine needs ammunition, munitions, weapons, whatever they need, well, how about you go get the $86 billion worth of military equipment that was left behind in Afghanistan? If you need it that bad, there's $86 billion of it left over there that was completely abandoned. And so why are we, the American people, our tax dollars, required to fund both sides of these wars? We're still purchasing energy from Russia. We are funding Ukraine endlessly. Zelensky shows up in a sweatshirt and picks up a check. He sends a tweet and gets a check, whatever it may be. And then even in our Israel aid package, there was $9 billion that went to Gaza. Who controls Gaza? Hamas. It is absolutely disgusting how we are packaging this foreign aid that we are voting on here. It doesn't make sense. It's not conservative. It's not even part of the Republican Party platform. So I am a Trump Republican. And if President Trump is saying, they could do whatever the hell they want if nobody's paid up, I think it's because his strength alone would stop them from doing whatever the hell they want, because they know that there would be retaliation.
Yeah, I think in that case, if you've ever read The Art of the Deal, he's trying to get Europe to step up to the game. The idea that it's always America's job to step in and police. And we're talking with Representative Lauren Boebert of Colorado Congressional District 3, candidate in Colorado Congressional District 4. We had a caller on just before you, Representative Boebert, that said, it is America's job to be out there and to police this world so that we can do the trade that we need to. And I just said, oh, really? So did you support the war in Iraq? No. Did you support Vietnam? No. I understand that the left is out there arguing that we need to get into Ukraine, but in the past, they haven't had this role. They haven't had this viewpoint. And look, I've changed my position on this. I was very supportive of George W. Bush going into Afghanistan and Iraq and taking on radical Islamists and the threat to this world that they were. And now that I sit back 25 years removed from that, lost friends in those wars, spent billions of dollars in those wars, and within 3 days of leaving Afghanistan, they kicked the little girls out of the schools and were in Afghanistan, essentially right back where it was. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of the money being spent. I'm tired of the lives being spent. And I understand there's threats in this world to face, but my goodness, with all the problems that this country's facing, watching them send billions of dollars to Ukraine and wave the little flags out there. I mean, when you were on the floor, Representative Lauren Boebert, when those flags came out, what was your feeling when you saw the Ukrainian flags being waved on the floor of the House of Representatives this past weekend?
Well, Jeff, I said some not very pretty words on the House floor, and I confronted many of my Democrat colleagues and demanded that they put the flags away. And their response was, this is our national security priority. And I mean, Jeff, that enraged me. Our country is our national security priority, our southern border, our people. The House just passed FISA that allows warrantless spying on American citizens, and Republicans voted alongside of that to go on with that and used fear as a leverage point to sell Americans' rights, to give up the Fourth Amendment right to privacy. And now we have Democrats boldly, Jason Crow on the House floor, waving the Ukrainian flag. Here's the deal. You love Ukraine that much? Then get your ass over there and serve. Go over there and enlist in their army. If this is how you feel about Ukraine and you're going to put America last every single day, leave here and go there and do your part to support them if that is your priority. America is my priority, and I am fighting to put her first each and every day, and that includes in our spending. We are almost $35 trillion in debt with no end in sight to the spending. And I'm tired of Republicans getting in the majority and thinking that new debt is okay because it's Republican debt. This is absolutely mind-blowing. We were less than $30 trillion in debt when I took office. And maybe by the time I leave office, we'll be at 40 trillion. It is unfathomable that we are putting this on our children and our children's children. It is immoral, it is unsustainable, and it's unacceptable. And each and every day, I am fighting to get our spending under control, going through to fight for individual appropriations bills and go line by line through that programmatic spending and get rid of the wasteful programs, departments, or even positions, bringing back the Holman rule so we can target bureaucrats who are abusing their position individually and say, okay, you want to play games with your position and the American people and abuse the separation of powers and try to make laws through your agency? Well, then we're going to reduce your salary personally down to $1. And everything that I'm doing, I am focused on the spending and the debt of our nation and trying to get that back under control. And even this spending package, just to go back to this near $100 billion in foreign aid that was just passed out of the House this week, it had the illusion of individual bills, of single subject bills. It was a complete lie. This had a predetermined outcome, and the way it was set up was we would have a cosmetic border bill that everyone, including the speaker, knew would fail, and it did. And then we would have the we would have the Tiawan bill, we would have the Ukraine bill, we would have the Israel bill, and then even the TikTok bill. And then at the end, they have a process that's called MIRV, MRIV, and it's a nuclear warhead term, where it starts as one and then it kind of mushrooms out and then it comes back together at the end. So this MIRV process takes all of the bills that passed on the House floor last week and puts them into one package to send over to the Senate. An illusion of single subject legislation, a total lie by the Speaker of the House that had no border security ever intended to pass along with it. It's absolutely shameful that this is happening in a Republican majority in the House, and that we aren't using the power of the purse, the power of our pen and our gavels to actually put pressure on Chuck Schumer and force action for our country's priorities. Instead of doing what's right, leadership has done exactly what Chuck Schumer and Joe Biden want. And this is the stuff that people hate about politicians and Washington, D.C. altogether. And, you know, I'm proud to be one of the few that will actually stand up to leadership and expose exactly what's going on and always do what's right when it comes to voting rather than doing what slimy politicians want.
Talking to Representative Lauren Boebert, represents Colorado Congressional District 3, running for Colorado Congressional District 4. Would you support a move to vacate Mike Johnson from the leadership seat? And would you be willing to take over the role as leadership as Speaker of the House in Congress?
First of all, I don't know where this Lauren Boebert Speaker of the House stuff came up.
I saw it online. That's why I asked you. Yeah, it comes from Matt Gaetz.
No. Well, you know, here's the deal. I in Washington, D.C., I would make a great leader, but in that town, I don't have many followers, so I don't think it's going to happen. But here, I do not support a motion to vacate. I have been very public about that. The speaker got me pretty close when he threatened to change the threshold from a one-member motion to vacate to extending that to more membership. I don't know what his number would have been, but I had a conversation with him and told him that this was my red line, and if he wanted a motion to vacate, the quickest way would be to increase the threshold. And he did immediately go out and make public statements against that. So I do not support a motion to vacate. I do believe that would leave us with a Speaker Hakeem Jeffries. And, you know, I have flippantly said, and maybe others have even said, what's the difference? It seems that we have Speaker Hakeem Jeffries already. The legislation that we've passed under Speaker Mike Johnson has more often had more Democrat support than it has Republican support. We have passed many Democrat bills that are sponsored by Democrats on suspension out of the House, and a lot of our House rules have been broken even. However, there is a difference. If we have a legitimate Speaker Hakeem Jeffries, we lose our gavels in committees immediately. They will go to impeachment on President Trump again. They will issue their subpoenas. These folks do not hold back where Republicans do. And they would have that supermajority again and be able to ram through all of the radical bills in the last few months of Joe Biden's presidency that they possibly could. So I do not support a motion to vacate. It is very, very dangerous to give Hakeem Jeffries the gavel. And I do believe that there are many of my colleagues, I say many, 3 to 5 of my colleagues who would vote for Hakeem Jeffries, who are Republican, or just flat out resign, leaving us in the minority.
Representative Lauren Boebert, super grandma, taking care of her grandchildren and answering questions about her vote over the weekend. Thank you so very much for coming on the Jeff and Bill Show,
thanks.
Sharing your reasoning behind your vote. And look, Lauren, I posted your position on my Twitter account, and I would say a vast majority of the people agreed with your vote and appreciate you standing for America first. So thank you for being on the Jeff and Bill program.
Well, I certainly appreciate you guys having me. There's always more wonky details involved in all of this. But the basis is we're putting America first. And also, just to give your listeners a little sneak peek into tomorrow, my good friend Chip Roy is looking forward to joining you all.
That's right.
To talk more about the policy that is coming out of Washington, D.C. So thanks so much for having me. And I'll try in between my meetings in the morning to tune in when Chip Roy joins y'all.
Oh, thank you, Representative Boebert. I appreciate that. She did help set up an interview for us tomorrow with Chip Roy. So thank you for connecting us with your friends there in Congress. All right, we're going to continue this conversation. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
My mic's on. Fantastic interview with Representative Lauren Boebert. Let us know what you think. When we come back, we're going to talk about these protests on college campuses. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Good morning, Denver. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show, 710 KNUS. It's 9 a.m. in the Mile High City on this Monday, April 22nd. It's going to be a beautiful day today. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights, hottest takes from the right, left, center, and sometimes a little crazy, but I guess that depends on where you stand.
I am the burr in the saddle. That's me.
Oh, Bill did very well with Lauren Boebert.
Yeah, that was good. That was good. I had someone up there. Yeah, I had someone sit there say, "Oh, she really took it to you." I'm like, I asked a question, and this wasn't a debate or anything else. There were some things that she said that I did disagree with, but that's not that time here. There are times we'll pick and choose, and this conversation today with her, that wasn't the time. Also, we were running out of time, and I have a tendency to make things spin out of control. So looking at the time, it was not a time to push some of those questions, but it was good. I appreciated her responses though, and they were very direct. And I appreciate the time. She was more than generous. It was fantastic.
Had an absolutely fantastic day. Barb Kirkmeyer came on to explain her support of a vote that I disagreed with. $24 million in funding going to schools dealing with illegal immigrants in their school districts. And I think you disagreed with Lauren Boebert's vote on the foreign aid spending, and we have good conversations.
Yeah.
Believe me, people, it happens.
And she did a great job defending her vote and why.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I get it.
In both cases, they did.
Wonderful. Yeah, Barb made a great case, in my opinion, on why the money was needed, mostly because it's mandatory. And Boebert did a great job defending her vote as to why, what her rationale was behind it. Now, I would come to a different conclusion, but I can't say that she did it incorrectly or anything else. That's how she believes, how she feels. So that's that's her vote, and she's been elected to do exactly that. And good for her.
There you go. All right, we got a whole nother hour of engaging discussions, critical analysis, and most importantly, your calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So get another cup of coffee. It's the 9 o'clock hour, Denver, and let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. Coming up here in just a second, Rich Sokol, a pro-Israeli activist who helps oversee the student group, the Jewish student group at the University of Denver. We're going to talk about this explosion of anti-Semitism protests taking place on the Ivy League schools, Yale having to call in riot police. We'll get the details on all this and comment and response from leaders in the Jewish community. You're not going to want to miss it. Stick around. Let's check in on the news with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Morning, Jeff and Billy. 57 and mostly cloudy in Denver, expecting highs in the upper 70s today. The 710 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story, opening statements in former President Trump's campaign derailment trial underway in New York this morning. Trump's attorney, Will Scharf, on Fox News over the weekend.
And as long as the jury focuses on the facts, as long as the jury can see through all the media coverage and all the sensationalism and focus on the actual facts at issue in this case, we believe we have a winning case.
This is the first time in American history prosecutors presenting opening statements in a criminal trial against a former president. Congratulations, Democrats.
Well, isn't that special?
Well, Ukrainian President Zelensky says thank you to Americans. The $95 billion foreign aid bill goes to Senate today. And what does Colorado's Lauren Boebert have to say about that?
How about no?
After we came to an agreement, after weeks and then hours and hours in meetings, we woke up to find that Mike Johnson went back to this horrible deal that had nothing for the border. So many things that we can be doing. And instead, the only thing we've done is hire more agents at the border that are just there to process aliens in quicker and parole them into the country.
Boebert, of course, just on with Jeff and Billy. A 6-year-old is safe and a suspect is in custody following a kidnapping in Aurora that triggered an Amber Alert. You probably received it Sunday night. A man stole a vehicle from a gas station while the child was inside. Authorities haven't said where or how they found the child. The suspect's identity hasn't been released. The 38th ride of the Rockies bicycle tour has been canceled due to limited registration, and they posted online that they're assessing the best options for this beloved ride. Scott Olmstead on with the fellas this morning from the Ride Collective.
15 years ago, cycling was hot. We called those the Lance Armstrong years. Lance was in the news every day. Cycling was relevant. People were motivated. They were inspired. And now they're in their 60s and they're, probably not riding as much. So, age has a factor right now for sure.
And probably cost and competition of other events in the area have something to do with it. 52 in Littleton, 55 in Brighton, 57 in Denver. Nuggets with game 2 of the NBA series against the Lakers opening round tonight. The Avalanche lose in game 1 of their NHL opening series against Winnipeg, 7-6 the final. Game 2 tomorrow. The Rockies open a 3-game series with the Padres tonight, so plenty of traffic downtown Denver tonight. They split a series, a doubleheader that is, with the Mariners on Sunday, and the Broncos unveiling their new uniforms right now. Their new look, still orange and blue and still has the same logo, but Billy says he likes it. Looks good. I think they should go back to the brown and yellow of 1960.
Only if we get striped socks.
Yes,
we get striped socks. I am in, my friend.
I am in, man.
Yes.
I think they should wear that. That should be the normal uniform.
This is what you do when your team stinks. Sorry. I look, I mean,
I would agree.
I was a Broncos season ticket holder for many years. They're never going to win so long as they're owned by corporations. They just aren't. The NFL is geared towards a benevolent dictator that runs the show. And
maybe, possibly.
And you can't run these teams by committee. You just can't. So what do you do when everything else stinks? You roll out a new uniform. Yay. Congratulations.
Yeah, and if you want to go see a game, go beg Billy for his season tickets and you'll be good.
I gave mine up, man. Sorry. They doubled the price. They haven't won in 7 seasons. And they're like, we're going to double the price.
The price goes up every year, regardless of performance. Doesn't matter. Every year it goes up. It is absolutely disgusting.
No doubt. And the seats get smaller and smaller.
Yeah. And here's the kicker. Okay. This is okay, kids. This is the secret I'm going to tell you. About the stadium that is going to be built, because we're getting a new one. It's just a matter of a timeline. The Walton family wants one. Likely it's going to end up in Aurora. That's what I'm hearing behind the scenes. Here's going to be the secret that they're not going to tell the average ticket holder. Your seats are going to be more expensive and further away from the field, regardless of where you are in the stadium.
You all want to pay that? By all means.
And the reason
I'm
why
all free market capitalism.
And the reason why
checked out.
is the way the stadium will be designed. What's going to happen is they're going to take the lesson from the other newer stadiums. There is going to be a new layer of luxury boxes right against the side of the field. So those first 5 rows move back 20 feet. So wherever you are in the stadium, you're a minimum of 20 to 30 feet further back than you were, paying more money to see the game.
And as Jeff just mentioned, I will be right there with them, not voting for this. They could pay for it themselves.
I don't get real mad about it. I get really mad about them coming to the voters and wanting tax subsidies.
I'm so sick of that.
So do I. I feel the same way about illegal immigrants. But whatever.
Yeah, bring so much to
coming to our voters.
So much to the community.
How about we get let's just let the illegal immigrants try it for the Broncos. Let's see what happens. Let's just 2 birds, 1 stone kind of a thing. Let's do that.
There you go.
I love it. All right,
see, we're about solutions.
Man, we could talk about so much of this. I'm trying to look for these ugly uniforms. Don't vote for a stadium. Forget that. They don't need a new stadium.
They can afford it
pay
themselves.
for it themselves. Yeah. Pay for it yourself. Do whatever you want. Have your way. I'll watch it on TV. Maybe. All right. It's Monday. Jeff and Bill continue. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Now there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts, text message your favorite local hosts, call the show, get the latest headlines, and enter contests to win prizes. All in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
All right, text message lines full. Lots of great conversation today. Thank you to everybody. Saw this over the weekend. Columbia University faces full-blown crisis as a rabbi calls for Jewish students to return home. From CNN, Columbia University facing the crisis as they're heading into Passover, as a rabbi linked to the Ivy League school urged Jewish students to stay home. Intense confrontations on campus sparked condemnation from the White House and New York officials. The atmosphere is so charged that Columbia officials announced students can attend classes and even possibly take exams virtually starting Monday, the first day of Passover. a major Jewish holiday set to begin later this evening. Tensions at Columbia and many universities have been high ever since October 7th, terrorist attack on Israel by Hamas. However, the situation at Columbia escalated in recent days after university officials testified before Congress last week about anti-Semitism on campus, and pro-Palestinian protests on or near campus surged. Just breaking this morning, Yale having to bring in riot guards. We saw a video over the weekend of Jews prevented from even walking around campus. My God, get control of your campuses. Administrators, this is horrible. And I was texting with my buddy over the weekend, Rich Sokol, just going, Rich, can you give us some perspective on how Jews are facing on college campuses right now? Rich Sokol is obviously an Israeli activist, but he's visited Israel 3 times since the October 7th attacks to volunteer. He's a member of Hillel of Colorado Board of Directors. Hillel is the Jewish student group on DU's campus. And Rich, I got to tell you, I'm heartbroken seeing this. I'm angry. I'm frustrated. I'm frustrated with the lack of leadership on these college campuses that have allowed this anti-Semitism to grow. Rich was key in helping me plan CCU for Israel, where we not only stood very publicly with our Jewish friends, but we raised $1 million that evening to save Jewish lives. We sponsored United Hatzalah. This is heartbreaking. Rich, thanks for being on the Jeff and Bill show.
Hey, it's great to be with you guys. I wish we were talking about the uniforms for the Broncos, and you might want to throw in the Rockies as well because they needed more.
Right. I know. So, I mean, you guys the Jews went through a lot right after October 7th. We even saw it here in Colorado down at the Metro campus. Can you give us a little perspective on how Jews are feeling on college campuses in light of all this anti-Semitism taking place?
So thanks for asking, Jeff. And just so you know, I have an 18-year-old daughter who's going to be attending college next year. So my wife and I were just discussing with her last night just how glad we are that she's going to Brandeis, which actually got an A on the report card put out by the ADL on anti-Semitism on campus. It was one of only 2 universities to do that. Whereas so many other universities, especially the Ivy Leagues, have gotten failing grades. I will tell you what we talk about with all our friends who have kids in college. This is the main topic. Are our kids safe? And unfortunately, the answer is no. There's not a Jewish kid on a college campus anywhere in America right now that feels safe and secure. They're always looking over their shoulder. They're always thinking what's going to happen. There's protests everywhere. There's a lot of fear out there. And unfortunately, in my opinion, the fear is justified. All the protests are getting rowdier. They're getting more violent. You mentioned Yale this morning. There's a report that the editor of the student newspaper, who is Jewish and wearing clothing that identified her as Jewish, that she was stabbed in the eye with a Palestinian flag.
Oh,
I mean, look, these presidents of these universities went before Congress and all argued the importance of free speech. We're so far past free speech right now. This is direct assault. This is hatred.
Yeah.
This is unacceptable. And it seems like these administrators cannot get control of the organizations that they run.
Jeff, I wholly agree with you. And if you look at some of the things that are being chanted, I mean, they're just horrible. They're openly calling for violence against Jews. Openly. How is this acceptable in any society? Yeah, I get free speech. Of course, we all back free speech. But when you cross the line into advocating violence, that's where free speech ends and arrests have to begin.
We're talking with Rich Sokol, who's a pro-Israel activist, but he also serves on the Hillel of Colorado Board of Directors. Hillel is the Jewish student college group near DU. Rich, what do these administrators need to do at this point to get control of their college campuses?
So they have to start enforcing their laws and regulations against hate speech. What we're saying to all the administrators is look, you already have these rules, just enforce them. I mean, Jeff, let's be blunt. At Harvard, there were open calls for genocide of the Jews. Okay. Can you imagine, and we all remember the testimony of the Harvard president and the president of UPenn when they were asked directly in a congressional committee, are calls for genocide a violation of your student regulations? And both university presidents said, well, it depends on the context. I mean, what kind of context could there be that would justify calling for the extermination of a people? There is none. So,
Rich, Rich, years ago, if you did anything like this, your career prospects were eliminated. Your potential leadership on any of these college campuses was eliminated, and they'd probably kick you out of school, right? It's like having a guy that's a member of the KKK on your college campus, right? You have free speech, but we're going to eliminate every possibility you have, probably kick you out of school. You're never going to get hired. How in the world did the most elite universities producing the top leaders of our nation be allowed to openly engage in calls for genocide and anti-Semitism? What happened to our culture?
That's the big question. And it's interesting, Jeff, you just mentioned the KKK. Well, apparently the favorite chant of the Yale students who got arrested yesterday was Yale police, KKK, IDF, they're all the same. We speak for the martyrs. IDF, for your listeners, that's the Israeli Defense Forces.
Jeez,
so they're screaming that the Israeli Defense Forces are the same as the KKK and the same as the police. So the bigger question that you raised, Jeff, accurately, of course, is where the hell have we gone wrong as a society?
Right.
Where do kids think it's okay to call for violence against others? Think about it. If you're on a college campus and you use the wrong pronoun, you get in trouble.
Right.
But you call for genocide and call the police KKK, well, that's acceptable free speech. Where have we gone wrong?
Rich Sokol joining us on the Jeff and Bill show, and we're talking about the anti-Semitic protests, pro-Palestinian protests that are going on in the Ivy League schools. Now, I'm not asking you to be the expert, but I just want your opinion on this, Rich. You just kind of touched on it, the idea of where we've gone wrong. The question I've got is, one, why do you feel this is concentrated, at least from what we're seeing, in Ivy League schools? And why do you think that at those schools, they've been so hesitant to, come down harshly on some of the more violent speech and protests?
So those are both very good questions. My glib answer is the more intelligent the kid, the dumber he is or she is. And unfortunately, we see in our universities, they become so woke. And I think the real answer, it is now so cool to be progressive and leftist and Marxist and, anti-imperialist and anti-white and anti-settler, you name it. That's the in thing. And we have all these kids who want to be, cool and accepted and on the vanguard and making change. And,
I would jump in here just for a second. That is really, really interesting, because I had made this statement earlier this morning and I was kind of pondering it and I was wondering about it. And I think that you've helped me really close the circle unintentionally. And earlier on, I was wondering about how come, it's my impression that a good percentage of the Ivy League student population comes from conservative households, just based on economics. Some come from very rich, Democrat households as well. And I'm curious as to why on these campuses, where I would assume we'd have a bit more conservatism, at least from the students, but you now talk about how it becomes cool. So in some ways, I can see that conservative kid getting out from underneath mom and dad's umbrella and deciding to rebel. Instead of going out and getting the tattoo or the mohawk, they're now going to be pro-Palestinian, because that's the best way to push back on mom and dad. It's the best way for them to rebel. And again, I'm not saying all of them. I'm not saying that's even a vast majority of those students, but I think you've helped me close that circle. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. And I should also mention, so I'm a graduate of Yale and Harvard. So
Thoughts
I
and
can tell
prayers.
you.
We apologize.
Thank you. Thank
I'm
you.
teasing it.
So not everyone who comes out of those schools is a liberal, just FYI. But I will tell you, when I was there, which obviously was a long time ago, but I don't think much has changed, I was shocked by how liberal it was. And, we think that the kids who go there are come from wealthy families. And for the most part, that's true. Not in my case, but for the most part, that's an accurate statement. But two things. One is, even when you're wealthy, sometimes there's guilt around that, and you want to virtue signal how you're fighting for the underdog. And for whatever reason, the Palestinians are seen as the underdog in the Israel-Palestinian dispute. It shouldn't be, but that's how it's seen. And second, you want to be a culture warrior and stand for something when you're in college. And this is the cause celeb, of the moment.
Yeah.
Now, of course,
exactly
all these college kids have no idea what the hell they're doing, what the hell they're saying. I'm sure you've seen the reports. The biggest chant on these college campuses is "From the river to the sea, Palestine shall be free." And when you ask the kids, what river and what sea are you referring to, hardly any of them know.
Yeah, they don't.
So
It's a pep rally chant. They have no idea, nor do they understand the history behind the conflict, because they're itty bitty babies. Right. They have no perspective on it. But why do you think in these Ivy League institutions we've gotten to a point where speech, aggressive and violent speech, is so permissive? And this is kind of where I'm going with it. I have this philosophy that I believe that in some parts of our society, but mostly inside of the houses of education, we have unfortunately made the decision over the last couple of decades that some people's speech is violence. And on the other hand, there are other people's violence that we count as speech. And what I mean by that is the editor of the paper who was attacked and stabbed with a Palestinian flag in the eye. Some people are going to view that violence as speech. How the hell is this happening?
So I think it's a bigger indictment of our society at large, that we become woke, etc., that we've lost our sense of right and wrong. And right and wrong depends on who's doing the action or who's speaking the words, not the actual action or not the actual words spoken. And that's terrible for us. I mean, we should all be so concerned about what's going on the college campuses, even if you're not Jewish, because these kids are going to be our future leaders. And look how they're being indoctrinated, and look how they're thinking, or better yet, look how they're not thinking. And these are the people that are going to be making decisions for us. But even more important for that, our enemies, Hezbollah, Hamas, whoever, who are enemies of Israel, the Jewish people, and enemies of all people, all good people who recognize what right and wrong is. They see these protests. They see what's going on in America, and they see what's going on in London and Paris, et cetera, in these mass protests. And they're like, see, the world is on our side. And when they think the world is on their side, that encourages them to attack. That encourages them to kill. That encourages them to carry out their jihad. So I look at these college kids, and, so many of us think, they're just college kids. Who really cares what they say? Well, I'm telling you, it matters, because the people who hate us see this, and it encourages them. And that's why it's dangerous.
Talking with Rich Sokol, pro-Israeli activist. He's visited Israel 3 times since the October 7th attack to volunteer. And he's also a member of Hillel of Colorado Board of Directors. Hillel is the Jewish student college group. I got a few other questions for you. One, what are y'all doing as Jews to address this on the Ivy League schools? As you mentioned, you are a graduate of Harvard and Yale. Evangelicals who have come from those types of institutions have felt maligned for decades, not nearly at the level of what you all are having to face, but they pulled back their donations. They've communicated that to, the president, to the board, that they're not going to support their alma mater because of how leftist Marxist many of these schools have gotten. As you're having conversations with Jews in your community, what's the plan to address this? And I mean, you even sit on a Jewish student college group board. How are you all putting pressure on administrations? How are you all pushing back against this leftist Marxist Islamist agenda on these college campuses?
So I'll start off by saying in Colorado, we've been lucky in that we've had great access to the administrators at CU and all the college campuses, and they are working closely with us. We've had a few instances here in Colorado, especially at DU and Metro, of anti-Semitic actions, but we believe the administrators are on top of it and they're enforcing the regulations. And luckily, we haven't seen the level of hatred that we see at the Ivy League schools here in Colorado. So Colorado is actually a pretty good example of how to handle the situation. I could speak for at Harvard, so all the Jewish alumni have gotten together and formed a really large active group and are actively engaged in talking to the administration. I'm not involved in that, but I read all the emails. I can't say that it's going well. But the biggest thing a lot of Jewish alumni have done is, you just mentioned, Jeff, is they pull their donations because dollars speak to these people. These schools need to raise a lot of money. That's how the presidents are judged, basically. And when you pull your donations and they see that go down, the board tends to make changes.
What do you think what do you think of the plan to put
Yeah.
students' names on lists? I saw one alumnus said, we're keeping track of those that are getting arrested, publishing statements. We're gonna make sure you never get a job in any of the businesses we run ever. I think that sends a chilling message, because these kids that go to these schools, they're all about the future, right? Their future job prospects, their future careers, all that. And I think, frankly, I think that sends the strongest message you can to these kids.
Yeah, I think it's great. And you may have said a bunch of the top New York and law firms throughout the country banded together and said, you exhibit this kind of behavior, you obviously don't have a moral code that fits in with our corporate culture, and we will not hire you. And in fact, some kids who had offers from these top law schools had their offers rescinded. And I think that's great. As you guys were talking about before, it's free market. You're entitled to have your opinion. I'm entitled to decide who I want to hire.
Yeah.
And if your moral code is so warped that you can't tell basic right from wrong, and you support terrorist actions and scream and holler and threaten Jewish students just because they're Jewish, that's not the kind of person we want at our firm. So good luck.
Rich Sokol, got
Go
a text
elsewhere.
message here. How do you think the students should protest if they're against U.S. support of Israel in Gaza? I understand people can have policy disagreements. How do you think that people, especially students, should go about expressing those differences, disagreements?
The students are more than welcome to express their opinion, no matter how misguided their opinion might be, but they can't advocate for violence. So if they want to scream, ceasefire now in Gaza, fine, that's okay. They want to scream, Israel should give up the West Bank, fine. You can scream and holler at that. As long as you don't cross the line into violence, you are absolutely free to voice any opinion you want. And by the way, there's Israelis who voice that opinion too. Israel is a pluralistic, democratic society with free speech. People voice those opinions all the time, and it's fine. And there's people in Israel's parliament that hold some of those views, and it's fine. Everyone should have free speech rights. No one should have the right to advocate or pursue violence.
Rich Sokol, pro-Israeli activist, has visited Israel 3 times since October 7th and the attacks to volunteer. A member of the Hillel of Colorado Board of Directors. Hillel's the Jewish student college group. As we wrap up here, how are things going in Israel? How's your family doing that's over there? And what do our listeners need to know about the battle that's taking place against Hamas?
So thanks for asking. My family's doing well. Again, my 18-year-old daughter lives in Jerusalem, and we have many, many family members in Israel. I have to tell you, last Saturday, a week ago, when Iran attacked, my heart stopped for quite a while. That was scary that Iran sent over 300, not just UAVs, but also ballistic and cruise missiles. And some of those missiles would have taken out thousands of people if they had hit. So thank God, literally thank God that Israel was able to defend itself and none of the missiles got through. So to answer your question, I'll tell you, on one hand, Israelis live life. And if you were to walk in Tel Aviv, you'd see people on the beach and people in the bars and restaurants, and it seems pretty normal. On the other hand, there is a pervasive, fear in everyone, because everyone knows that tomorrow Iran could launch another attack or Hezbollah could launch an attack. Israel is still riveted because there's still 130 hostages that woke up this morning in a tunnel in Gaza. You and I woke up in our beds, but 130 Israelis, if they're still alive, which we don't know, and many Israelis now doubt that any hostages are still alive, but those hostages woke up in a dark, dank tunnel. So I think about that every morning when I wake up in my nice house and those people wake up in a tunnel as a captive.
And some of those are Americans too. It's amazing that we've just totally forgotten that, or at least ignored it.
It kills me. Honestly, we thank Biden, for having the U.S. engage with Israeli forces and shooting down the Iranian missiles. But there were 6 American citizens who were hostages. Israel announced a few weeks ago that one was no longer alive. So we now believe there's 5 American hostages, or these are citizens with U.S. These are Israelis with U.S. citizenship. I don't understand why the president and every congressman isn't screaming at the top of their lungs, like, "Hey, Hamas, you let our people go, or we're going to rain hell from the sky on you."
Right. Oh.
But
Rich Sokol, pro-Israeli activist and member of the Hillel board. Hillel is the Jewish student college group, giving us perspective on what's happening on college campuses at Columbia, Yale. Our heart is with you. Bill and I stand with our Jewish friends. I really appreciate you taking time to share with us the perspective of what Jews are going through on college campuses, what Jews are facing in Israel. And thank you for being so strong, so bold. We'll get through this, but it breaks my heart to see where we are as a culture. Yeah. And thank you for taking time to spend with us today, Rich. Appreciate
Thanks
it.
a lot.
Jeff, Bill, thank you for your time. And more importantly, thank you for your support. We're all in this together. This isn't just a Jewish issue. This is an issue for anyone who believes that there's right and wrong, and there's an absolute morality. And we all have to stand together.
That's exactly right.
If we don't,
you're absolutely right.
This culture is going to take over, and we can't let that happen to us.
Yeah.
Rich Sokol, thanks so much for being on the Jeff and Bill show.
That was great, man.
All right, men, you've heard a lot about how treating low testosterone can improve your sleep, your workouts, your energy levels, and more. But I want to talk to you about your love drive, because low testosterone can have a significant impact on your desire for intimacy. And if you're in a relationship or wanting to be in a relationship, a low love drive can be a real problem. There's good news. Go to RockyMountainMen'sClinic.com and take the low T quiz on their website. It's a simple 10-question quiz with yes or no answers. It only takes 2 minutes. Then schedule a consult with Rocky Mountain Men's Clinic, a Colorado licensed medical provider. Will review your results with you and discuss your options. Cost of the appointment is only $99, which includes a medical consult, T and PSA test. And if you sign up for testosterone treatment the day of your appointment, your visit is free. Went down there and visited with these guys, got a chance to meet them as I was taking over the show, and really great guys. Went through the process of the T and PSA test and the medical consult, learned how they do it. Very professional. Guys from all walks of life were there. Guys in suits coming in, guys just fresh off the construction site were coming in. Rocky Mountain Men's Clinic has served the Front Range of Colorado for nearly a decade and successfully treated tens of thousands of men. Give them a call today at 720-440-7900 or visit RockyMountainMen'sClinic.com. That's RockyMountainMen'sClinic.com. As Rich was saying, what's happened is we've embraced this Marxist view. What do I mean by Marxist view? Well, in our culture, if you just read the first page of the Communist Manifesto, first page, you'll see they basically, what was written in the 1800s is super relevant to the way our culture thinks today. It's all of history is broken up into oppressor versus oppressed. And when you think that way, when you're like oppressor versus oppressed, well, then that just green lights the oppressed to do whatever they want against the oppressor, right? If that's the way our society is built, then the oppressors need to be taken down and the oppressed are basically allowed to do whatever they want in order to achieve that. That's why you have some leftist Marxist professors on these college campuses looking at the rape of innocent women and children on the October 7th attack and justifying that. It's the only way you can justify that.
Yeah.
Is you have to think in those terms of going, Israel is such the oppressor that that the oppressed attacking them are vindicated or greenlit to be able to go do those types of activities. But if you have a universal moral judgment that there is a right and a wrong, well, then you can't just say what Hamas did on October 7th is warranted at all. And you've said, Bill, that was in your mind one of the greatest dismissals of the justification for the October 7th attack was that they didn't attack military targets.
Not at all. And that's the idea is they're sitting there talking about, we are fighting the oppression. We are fighting the boot that is on our throat. Okay. How about you go and attack the frickin' boot rather than the people? That's why this whole justification of, do you understand how oppressed they've been? Do you understand what the Israelis have done to them? And then how it's been walls and like a concentration camp. And okay, fine. I get it. However, if it is an issue, you attack military installations because those are the people that are keeping you in the box. Those are the people that are carrying the guns and are wearing the uniforms that you dislike that are doing this to you. The average citizen, no, you don't claim righteousness or justification for anything that has been done to you by attacking the innocent.
That's right.
That is never justified.
Guys, for those of you with a full head of hair, congratulations. Studies show that one of the most attractive physical features is a full head of hair. Want to know the least attractive and most aging? Well, it's hair loss. No amount of car, house, or success can make up for that thinning or balding, as it leaves the greatest lasting physical impression. It doesn't have to be that way. Advanced Hair has the quick one-day solution to your hair loss. No more expensive pills or special shampoos, just your very own natural hair guaranteed to grow. And with Advanced Hair, your new hair can grow for life. Advanced Hair has improved tens of thousands of lives, including top radio personalities across the country. Many of my family members have gotten their hair done. Did I mention your own natural hair begins to regrow the very next day? For your free consultation, call 720-459-HAIR. And if you qualify, get $250 off and 250 free hair grafts. 720-459-HAIR, or visit the website at advancedhair.com. advancedhair.com. We'll get to your calls and texts next. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
All right, we're talking these anti-Semitic protests that have exploded on Columbia University and Yale University. Yale having to bring in riot police to deal with it. Senator John Fetterman today, 49 minutes ago, just tweeted this: as an alumnus of Harvard, and after this mad season of anti-Semitism at Columbia, I co-sign this. Harvard is in an almighty mess. Let Mitt Romney clean it up.
Oh, wow. That's out of left field and right field.
That's good,
wow.
Bill.
Thank you.
This former governor of Massachusetts doesn't need a paycheck, but Harvard and its academic peers need to recalibrate from far left orthodoxy.
I like that.
Fetterman
idea.
is interesting.
He
I think
is.
you could put Romney in there. Look, I work for the guy. He knows how to run things.
Yeah. And can raise some money.
Yeah.
Decent fundraiser. I mean, that would be an interesting message. I like that more and more I think about it. He shocked me. Man, Fetterman, what the hell? Damn. All right.
There you go. Doc, we're going to get to you in just a second. Jeff Hunt here for my friends at Dan Kaplan Law. I love Dan, man. What a great guy. Dan suggests that you should choose a lawyer who shares your values, because who you choose to represent you in an injury case says a lot about you to everyone involved in the case. Dan Kaplan is the son of a police officer. He's also a former seminarian like myself. This guy is committed to the sanctity of life. He's strong in his faith. He has dedicated the last 40 years of his life to helping people who are hurt in a serious motor vehicle crash. Dan is believed to be the only lawyer in Colorado history to win 5 straight multi-million-dollar verdicts in Colorado crash cases. Dan is also believed to have won the largest truck crash verdict in Colorado history. Man, he's a fighter when you need him. Dan Kaplan Law is the official law firm partner of the Denver Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche. Dan Kaplan Law is a serious firm for serious cases. Dan also accepts righteous injury cases on a percentage fee basis so that he can represent good people from all walks of life without regard to ability to pay. If you need Dan's help, give him a call, 303-770-5551. That's 303-770-5551, or hit dankaplanslaw.com. That's Dan, C-A-P-L-I-S law.com. Doc, Highlands Ranch, you're on the Jeff and Bill show. You've been very patient. What you got, Doc?
You guys are fantastic.
Oh, thanks, brother.
Yeah, I think about these kinds of things. I think about the Marines that were shot down, and I think about those $90 billion that were left in Afghanistan with that puts us guys and gals downrange.
What does that mean, downrange? For us non-military dudes?
That means armament, military aircraft, artillery, and being shot at. This bothers me because I have kids and grandkids, and these sorts of things trouble me. Au contraire, the lady that yes, she said, well, how about thinking about Colorado potholes? How about how much are our fees and taxation going to develop a better Colorado? So I'm in esoterica, and she's pragmatic.
Are you talking about Lauren Boebert, or is he talking about
I think
Kirkmeyer?
Lauren is and she said, and I'm going to cut you off for this. Can I say hell?
Yes, you can.
I
you just did.
didn't I?
Yeah, you did.
Well, you never know, because she said
That's
you
true.
must control your language.
It's true.
Well, for crying out loud, having been with the Department of Defense for 30 plus years, I'm doing my best to be a better person, paying my taxes. Howsoever, yeah.
Doc, I appreciate the call.
Thank
Thanks
you.
so much, Doc from Highlands Ranch.
Yeah,
Thanks for your service, by the way.
Yeah, thanks for the service. I understand the complaint that everyone has about leaving all the equipment back in Afghanistan. But I'm of the opinion it was not worth the money or time to bring any of that heavy equipment home. Leave it there. Leave it.
His argument, though, is that it's going to be used against his children and grandchildren.
It won't, though. You know why? Here, that right about now, it's going to stop working.
Yeah,
and the reason, absolutely it will. And here's the reason why.
Stop working.
Oh no, that's the thing. Is the bullets and the guns. Yes, that does have some issue. But when I pointed this out, though, it's heavy equipment. The heavy equipment doesn't, because sand is the worst thing in the world for our heavy equipment. In fact, during our time in Afghanistan, when the things like the troop movers would stop working, they would throw it away rather than getting in and fixing the transmission and getting in and fixing the gearing systems. The sand does too much to it. They just would throw it away, get a new one. It was more cost effective for them to bring a new troop carrier into theater than to repair the one they had, because of the amount of time, labor, effort that it would take. So the stuff's going to stop working.
We all want a kinder, gentler way to experience wellness and to overcome pain. I'm thriving and fighting back my workout soreness with UltraCur. UltraCur is a patented non-prescription natural capsule that works fast. Surveys show that 50% of people using UltraCur find relief within 48 hours, and half of those within 2 hours. Experience UltraCur for free. Go to any Denver Metro Natural Grocers and ask for the health coach or the vitamin manager for your free 3-day trial of UltraCur. UltraCur is fueled by patented technology to give you the true edge to support your peak wellness, energy, and active lifestyle. If you've tried everything without much success, even other natural curcumin products, you owe it to yourself to try UltraCur today. UltraCur gives you unique control over your daily wellness. It's gentle on your stomach. That matters to me. And it's a natural antioxidant. Get curious, Denver. Head to the Natural Grocers, grab your free 3-day UltraCur trial. No strings attached. Wondering about the research? Get the lowdown at getultranow.com. That's getultranow.com. Take it from this ultra runner. Use UltraCur. All right. We'll be back with your calls and texts. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Absolutely fantastic show. We're running over. Senator Barb Kirkmeyer joined us this morning, along with Representative Lauren Boebert and Rich Sokol. My goodness, this was one of the best shows I think we've ever had. If you missed it, go to listen to the podcast, 710knus.com. Mike Kaufman's up tomorrow morning. You've been listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.